Okay, good morning, everyone. Off we go on this Monday morning. We'll open this meeting of the DeKalb County Commissioners. Today's date is May 12, 2025. And the first item on our agenda is DeKalb Humane Shelter discussion. And I guess I'll lead off with this. I had a meeting with Dave Rodeback out at the shelter. We met here. And he has expressed a concern about the contract, that he can't fulfill the contract legally. His insurance will not let them get into that area of expertise. And I've decided at this point, from my perspective anyway, I'm going to take him at his word. He says he can't and don't want to or whatever. That's, you know, I'm satisfied with leaving it at that and moving on with something else that will fulfill those needs that they say they can't do in the contract. So one of the first things we need to do is rewrite the contract, take some of the provisions out that they can't fulfill, and maybe adjust the cost or the amount of money that we give to the shelter, and that will be up to the three commissioners, where we allocate those funds. I know the trap, neuter, and release has run through the 2,000. We give them already quite successfully in the number of cats that they've been able to neuter. And so they could probably use some more funds to finish out the rest of the year. And that's going to be my recommendation. As far as the animal control, I mean, Sheriff Thomas, you want to address that a little bit and kind of tell us what might be on the agenda forthcoming?
Before you get to that, Brady, can you explain some of the things that they can't do fulfill the contract? So anybody that's
they can't go in and investigate animal cruelty. They can't go on property, other people's property. They'd be trespassing, is what he claimed. They can't investigate neglect of animals. They can't investigate pretty much anything that has to do with animal abuse and neglect. Okay, so saying they can't do that, and it was in the contract that they do that.
Okay, so just for clarification, anybody that's watching, what the issue was.
Right.
Okay.
One of the issues I think the county has is a lack of an animal control officer, someone that can a little bit more proactively go out and respond to some of the calls that need to be a little bit further investigated. Some of them are horses that are malnourished. A lot of us aren't trained or equipped to handle those calls, so we have to call someone else. I've been in communication with a person that I'm going to bring on part-time to fulfill that role as an animal control officer. They have 7 years of experience working full-time for the Fort Wayne Animal Control, so she brings a lot of knowledge and experience to us. She's a registered vet technician, and so we're working on getting equipment for her. She's going to start off on a part-time basis, still working through exactly what that would look like, if it's strictly on-call as needed, or would work some hours here and there going out and around the county. So it's still in the works of all of that, but what she'll respond to, whether it's barking dogs or picking up dogs and dealing with animals and cats. So still in the planning phases of that. But my intention is to make her, what I would like to do is make her available to all the cities countywide to respond and help them out with all their animal complaints. I think over time, what may happen is, you know, take Auburn, for example. They have a lot of animal complaints, and she may end up responding and working with Auburn sometimes more frequently than the county. But what I'd like to do is make her available for the first year, maybe 2 years, and see how everything's going, see what the need is, see how it's working for everybody, and then talk with the cities and take the numbers, the stats that we've accumulated over the last year or two, and approach them if they'd like those services to continue, something that would help compensate a little bit going to us for the services and the ongoing training and equipment that's being needed for that. But I'm excited about it. I think it's, you know, unfortunately right now, without having the humane shelter, I think doesn't have the resources that they need to do that. The the police officers aren't trained or equipped to deal with some of the animals that we encounter. We're the police officers and the deputies are really the only ones that are, DNR will help us out from time to time, depending on what they have going on, but they're busy and sometimes not available to us. So oftentimes it comes down to the deputy, the police officer trying to figure out how to deal with some type of animal situation. So sometimes that's not safe for the animals or for the officers, not having the training and the equipment. So I think this will be a much needed asset that we'll be able to bring to the county and a service that I think will be very beneficial. Also, she'll be able to do the ordinances. Certainly the county ordinances won't be a problem for her to enforce. When it comes to the cities, that's gonna be a little bit different because he won't be able to enforce the city ordinances. I'm still working through that. My understanding is there's a way to get around that where the county can adopt some of those ordinances or vice versa. I don't understand all of that at this point, still working through that. So, but the hope is that once we get all in place, so she would also be able to enforce the city ordinances.
Okay,
So
thank
then
you.
you're thinking that maybe after the first year, once all the stats are collected, then we could possibly do something kind of like we do with SRO, where others share the cost?
That's what I would like to see. I think that, I think it'll be I think she'll be pretty busy. I think we're gonna start off probably on call as needed, and we're working through exactly what calls those would be and the hours that those would be. She's pretty flexible, so I think that'll be nice. But then I think she'll have follow-up calls to do when she goes out somewhere, and then the next day or the next week needs to go check on the status of a certain animal that may have been neglected to some degree. We'll have someone actually available to stay on top of those cases and continue to follow up with the owners of them and maybe provide resources if needed. So I think she'll be pretty busy because I think there's quite a void there now that's just not being filled with the lack of someone to do it and the knowledge and the experience to do it.
Okay, thank you, Sheriff. That's, I think that helps. It gives us a solution going forward without backing up and getting into a spat with Humane Shelter any further.
Yeah, and I hope to partner with the Humane Shelter.
Yeah, it's,
We're
they
gonna
have a job, they have restrictions, I'm sure that, they have to follow, and I understand that.
Yeah, she'll have a vehicle, and a kennel and all the necessary equipment to do that, and I hope to partner with them and, help each other out,
Yeah.
I think they need us, and I think we'll need them, and so I have to work with them and see what we can work out.
Do you have it in the budget, within your current budget to,
Yeah, I think there's enough money there to get her started part-time, if a few hours, a handful of hours per week. We're just kind of see how it goes. I do have one or two positions that aren't, that I don't have intention of filling right now. So if it gets towards the end of the year and that's just really taken off, it's possible I can transfer some money into the part-time budget, and here in a year or two, we'll see if it works for her and if the need is there to eventually go full-time. But I think for right now, we're okay.
Well, and in the future, if the cities are willing to contribute and get on board, that would help a lot with the monetary part.
we had the 50,000 we're giving the Humane Center, if we're gonna be looking at money and stuff to figure out how to help him out. And then now if they pick up an animal, they would have to take it to the Humane Center, you guys aren't gonna store it at.
That's not our
something
goal
you have
right
to-
now. I'm really leaning on her a lot too, working full-time for the Fort Wayne City Animal Control. So she's a great resource to get in place the policies and the procedures and everything we need. We're gonna use a vehicle right now and kind of retrofit it with the necessary gear and equipment. But maybe in the future, if this turns out to be as much of a need as I think it will be, I'd like to eventually get a vehicle that's outfitted specifically for that type of job and make it, easier and safer.
I only ask because we make a contract with, if we redo the contract with the Humane Center, it might be need that, if she needs to take the animal, she probably needs to have a place to put it, then maybe that could be where the relationship could be at, and may have that put in the part of the contract. Is why I was asking. I mean, I don't think she's gonna take them, but if it gets to the point where she has to, she needs a place to put them.
Right,
Animals.
right.
So,
If they have to take them in,
yeah, that might be part of like how that partnership works with you guys and Humane Center.
I would love to see a great partnership with the Humane Shelter, and if it all transpires, though I hope it does, where she would hopefully have access to the Humane Shelter, maybe after hours. They used to have some outdoor kennels. I don't know if they still have that or not. People can take dogs and they keep them outside until the humane shelter gets there. But we have a good relationship with them, and that's going well. But I hope to just have a really good partnership with them and work hand in hand.
That was one of the issues that I heard. I don't know if it was from Brian or from Dave, I think, that the Humane Society doesn't have outdoor kennels anymore at this time because they were worried about people just randomly dropping animals off. So maybe they would be, I don't know if they'd be willing to change their policy on that, but I think that would help if they had something like that.
Well, they could have if they agree, they could have one specific for this person that would be locked, but this person could
Locked and
have
covered
the
or something.
lock to be able to put somebody, put something, whatever they get picked up in it.
Brian, do you have any comments you'd care to make? So you took the trouble to come and visit us and be involved in this conversation, so.
I appreciate that. I agree with what the sheriff says. You know, I would like to see us still work with Humane. But I would also like to see the county work with, I mean, we've got 4 different 501c3 rescues that have a very wide scope of assets that we could use, as far as if the sheriff gets someone that has a 4-foot reptile, we have one that can take care of that, take care of, you have a pet parakeet, they have someone that can take care of birds. Courtney Butler's group has done wonderful. I'm glad to see you guys want to give her some more money for the TNR. I would like to see the sheriff be able to either have some type of MOU or something with these other rescues as well as Humane, because these rescues are drop of a hat. They will go out, but I don't want to see us overwhelm them without some type of agreement in place and a little bit of funding. I'm not talking $50,000 a piece, but anything to help keep them going, so we have access to them and we are not overwhelming them. Because the sheriff's gonna, you know, his person getting started, it's gonna be limited time, and these people are willing to go out and trap dogs, cats, you name it. So that's the only other thing I would like to see, is some kind of agreement in place with the local rescues, because they're a huge asset to us. But we just don't want to overwhelm them and run them out of money.
And she's commented on that too. She's really knowledgeable and talked about working with other local nonprofits, and she ran the CAT program in Fort Wayne. I'm not familiar with all the terminology of it, which is why I'm hiring someone that knows about it more than I do, but she was involved with that program. So I think she's excited to get started and work with those other entities.
So then I have a question from the standpoint of the contract that we want to rework with the Humane Society. To rework the contract, we'll need to know what exact terms do not work anymore and need to be renegotiated, and dollar amounts, if anything, there. Do you want me to start by reaching out to you, the sheriff, the Dave Rotacap, or do one of you going to handle that? I mean, I'm willing to wait till whenever you want to act on it.
I'd probably just lean on whoever you're gonna hire and see how she kind of wants this set
Okay.
up. I mean, if the Humane Center takes cats and dogs, and then the bird place takes the birds.
Okay.
And we have horses, I know there's a rescue for horses, that maybe she can kind of coordinate where she would take some of, I mean, we're gonna lean on her, she's got the experience in it. That's how
Good
I
idea.
feel about it, and then
Yep.
go from there, and then figure out,
Then we can negotiate over terms after that.
prices after that, and just figure out.
The only other thing is, would it be valuable to notify the Humane Society of any breach of the contract currently? Or maybe it doesn't matter since we're just going to renegotiate it in the future? Okay.
Okay, but I have a question on that. So the current one that we have, the whatever amount of money that we decided is broken up and sent monthly to them. So we haven't sent May's yet. Am I supposed to continue sending the monthly payments until this is changed, or how are you going to determine that?
we're not under contract to send them anything, actually, are we, Andrew, at this point? Contract's expired?
We aren't technically, but we have sent them every month
Yeah, I know.
since this contract went in place.
Contracts say that we have to cancel it, or does it continue to keep going unless it's can
Or was it that the contract
The
was,
contract expired at the end of '22 and it's supposed to be renewed in good faith, reviewed in good faith and redone every year. It's a yearly contract.
But there's some wording in there, sometimes that will continue to keep in the current contract unless it's changed. I just wanted, some contracts are that way, I haven't,
So I don't think it is.
I didn't see that.
It
one.
wasn't, this wasn't, however,
Yeah.
the county has continued to pay them, so
maybe in
am
good
I
faith, we
halting
should
everything right
continue
now, or?
For a little while.
Let's pay May, and let's pay June, maybe. And at that point then, cut it off, we need to have a contract in place.
I
would say by the end
agree.
of June.
Okay.
You agree,
Still
Sheriff?
providing services
that
now, of
doable?
course, right? I mean, they're still doing some service, so it's not like
Have
they're
that
getting paid
person,
without service.
get that input from the animal control officer, and,
I think we'll have it up and running by then.
yeah.
Okay.
Put them on notice of that possibility so that they can, and it's all, everybody get in the room at some point then and agree on what needs to be in his contract.
Is
Okay,
that
thank you.
something you put them on notice for?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm willing to as well.
Okay, does that kind of wrap that up as far as animal control officer in everybody's mind? Let's move on then to the money for trap, neuter, and release. Are we willing to give them some more money? She's talking about taking off, and a couple of details. Courtney, I forget the number that they've neutered. I do remember the number that it transpired into as far as reproduction, 113,000 cats taken off the street.
Yeah, I have the update here. Do you
Yeah,
want me to
that-
go over it?
Yes.
Okay, so Courtney had sent an update, and she said that they had, okay, so they've went nonstop this whole year, and they have sterilized and vaccinated 98 cats, 15 more planned for May. They have prevented over 113,000 new stray unwedded kittens in the county's rural areas in the last year. She says this action increases property value, reduces cat destruction, and increases health in our communities, thanks to the rabies vaccine in addition to surgery. Just to remind, all of the cats in our program have a CCP or a human that provides a shelter and food within ordinance guidelines. This responsible TNR practice also helps ensure an increase in our bird and reptile populations while also preventing wildlife zoonotics that affect our residents through open-air night feeding. When we return late in the summer for surgery, we will complete the 2025 surgery with donation dollars and then inform residents that county funds will be available for those in need starting January 1 of '26. Thank you for the support as county leaders. You truly have made DeKalb an even better place to live. Because she's already went through the $2,000 and we carried over, we had a little bit of money, I don't know, $130 or something from last year. We brought that into this year with us, but she's been able to use all that.
I think we should keep that going, whatever funds we can give to that organization for the remainder of the year and keep it going. Thoughts?
Where did that funds come from? Was that a separate fund for her?
So $2,000 comes out of the commissioner's regular budget in county general. Because 2,000 is what was agreed on when this all went into place.
What can we take it out of? We want to do a special.
We can, I mean, we'll still take it, whatever amount you agree on, we can still take it out of your budget. I'll just transfer monies around and.
How much is she asking for to finish?
She is not asking for anything. I was just providing the update saying she has went through the $2,000 successfully. So if you guys are willing to provide anything else, that I'm sure she would appreciate it. She is not asking for anything at all.
Strictly my suggestion.
I agree with you. I'm just kind of curious how much more money I mean, obviously she would take as much as she could take, but what would she need for the rest of the year? I mean, we have the 50,000, I'm looking at the 50,000. How are we going to separate that out with the animal control and all the other rescues and humane, that maybe that could be part of, she can get a part of that too? How are we going to reallocate that 50 grand? she might get a chunk of that to help out the cats, you know, what I mean, kind of have that.
Well, I can
conversation.
tell you that the very last bill, we couldn't pay all of it because we didn't have the full amount left. So we paid our portion to come up with the 2,000. So on a good estimate for this first half of the year, she would have spent at least $2,500. So if you go by that, not knowing, then you could possibly just do another 2,000 or maybe do another 2,500 to try to get to the end of the year. And then as we plan budgets for 26, then you can say, okay, we want to do this amount going forward and leave it at that. But that's just number wise from what I've paid.
I like the $2,500.
I agree with that. I would,
I mean,
if we have it in our budget, that,
one thing about
Obviously,
this is just like healthcare. This is prevention. This is the start of the cycle. You stop the cycle at the start, you make a lot of progress. Well, I wholeheartedly agree with, would recommend 2,500, so.
and we have that in our budget.
Yeah, I just have to transfer things around. It's not a big deal.
I'm fine with that too. I think that she needs to be included in the overall issue with the animals going forward too. I think her and the, said 4 rescues or four.
Right.
We called them, last week, somebody, pregnant cat in here, and love you guys.
I think it's a great program. I'm fine with doing the 25 for now and then have a bigger overall conversation at budget time of how we're gonna handle the whole animal control, the other, because I don't want to leave, if they're willing to take it on, we should compensate them. I mean, if they're gonna take on a horse that the animal control officer is gonna have to take for whatever reason, they should be compensated. But I'm fine with the 2,500 now, then having a bigger conversation closer to budget time to figure out how we can split that money evenly and fairly among all the organizations that help with the animals here.
Was that a motion?
I will make the motion to approve $2,500 to, what's the name of her?
TNR.
DNR.
That's not the name, but that's the,
Courtney's TNR organization.
yeah. It's Animal Welfare Alliance is what it is, but yeah.
I will second that motion.
Very much a second on the floor. Any additional comments? Comments from the public? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. I think that's a wrap on that altogether.
Thank you, gentlemen, for coming in.
Yeah, thank you.
You bet. Thank you for coming in, gentlemen. Mr. Parker, you are up.
Good.
I applaud Mr. Bill for turning the heat up out there this last week. Turned the furnace on.
Felt good, didn't it?
Oh, man, it sure did. So I have a few things here today to go over with you guys. First thing, I have the Highway 2024 Annual Operations Report. I sent you guys an email last week before, I believe, for your approval. My secretary and bookkeeper went through this with the auditor. I reviewed it. Everything appears to be correct as far as our knowledge. And if you guys looked at that, had any questions or comments, I didn't hear from you, so if you guys are okay with that, I'd like to have this approved today and all three sign.
move to accept as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second on the floor. Additional comments? Comments from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
Yep.
Motion carries.
I don't think I do. Ben, can you scan me the signed one? Thank
Will.
you.
Get that uploaded then. Okay, next thing I have is the speed ordinance for County Road 35. This is to amend ordinance 92-7 for DeKalb County Code 9-1-1-11. This is an updated version from the 1997 ordinance that makes the ordinance more clear and also defines the areas from where we start and stop with the ordinance from Auburn's annexations. So I sent this to you guys. Don't know if there's any questions or concerns. If not, this ordinance is ready for its first reading. And then this will have to go through and be publicized. Susan can send that in, and I don't know if you guys want the whole ordinance read, but I got a copy of it here. I don't know what your procedure is that you'd like to do with it, but
I think you can read it by title only.
Yes, because I provided it to them 48 hours ahead of the meeting. We can just do it by title only.
gotcha. Well, if you guys are okay with that, we can adopt the first reading and move forward.
Here's you guys can sign both if you do it, and then he can have one and I can have one.
I have no questions.
Okay with it?
Would so move we accept to amend ordinance 92-7, DeKalb County Code 9-1-1-11, ordinance of DeKalb County Board of Commissioners on the speed limit for County Road 35 as presented.
I'll second.
That'd be first reading. We have motion second on the floor. Additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Do you wish to suspend the rules and do the second and third reading? Take a motion to do that?
I would so move we suspend the rules and do second and third reading as presented.
Second.
A motion and second on the floor that has to be unanimous. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? And go on to second, third reading.
Make a motion.
Got it?
Motion second on the floor. Additional comments?
Did Jim second it?
You second? A motion on the floor, any additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
I need to sign his.
That would
I'll go back.
but this is,
Musical papers here. Making sure you guys are paying attention.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. That's make good clarification out there, and that is for
Cleans that up.
35 between State Road 8 and Duplex Drive, which used to be Morning Star, where we stopped. Then the city's done annexation. Now we'll stop at Duplex Drive, which is, I'm shooting from it, maybe 500 feet south of Morning Star, where that limit will be. So then whatever the city does with theirs will be theirs. Next thing I have, just an,
Ben, I will let you know when they can advertise it.
okay, sounds great. Just informational purposes, I'm working on the request for proposals for our next phase of countywide bridge inspections with NDOT. This will be our phase 2026 through 2029. This is all on their form that goes out. So we go in there and we enter our information, our names, our DES number, our DBE goal. And this has been sent in to NDOT for review. And there's there's been some confusion on NDOT's side. This was not supposed to have been posted until June 8th. Well, then it went live last week. So I've already been contacted. So they've since pulled that back down, supposed to have. So the corrected version, the final version should go out, should be posted June 2nd, with our response time being July 2nd, 2025, 10 a.m., auditor's office. So should be
I'm sorry, Ben, what was this for?
the countywide bridge inspections, RFP. So this is our last cycle, and our new cycle will start next year. Our countywide bridge inspections, it's mandated, it's federally required, state required. And this is also 80% refundable to the county by doing this. So they're 4-year cycles, 4-year terms when we select a consultant. So that's what this RFP is for. It all goes through NDOT, it's approved. So just wanted to give you a heads up. This is still in we're supposed to still be in review from NDOT. So I fill this out, I submit it in, they do our bias check to make sure I'm correct on our bridges and what bridges have 12-month cycle or 24-month cycle. Somehow it got launched. Yeah, somebody pulled the trigger a little quick, I think. So I can send this out to you guys if you'd like to see it, or you can have this copy if you like. This should be the final version of it. But I just want to let everybody know that that's coming up, going out.
If you don't mind,
Scan and send
Yep.
all of it.
Sure can.
that'd be great.
Yeah, I was gonna do that here soon, but I didn't know it was, like I said, somebody pulled the trigger a little quick on that. Next thing I have for you is just letting you know I'm working with NDOT for our unofficial detour route from US 6 being closed. Originally, we had that set up for County Road 22, which is gravel between 35 and 31. Shortly after that road was closed, traffic was running south to County Road 26 and really destroyed that road. So we asked to do a reevaluation of our unofficial detour. We moved that to County Road 26. That now at 6 is opened back up. I'm working with them on getting that repaired. And they did also agree to split some of the cost with us for what we put on County Road 22 as well for gravel, because they did hit both roads pretty hard. I did speak to them last week, so we should be moving forward with repair soon, hopefully. So
Good.
last thing I had, I just want to bring up discussion to see budget's coming up here real soon. I've got a cost estimate here to work on County Road 60 between I-69 and County Road 427. That's the swamp area down through the bottom there. I'd like to go after federal funds for that and submit that to have that redone. It looks like, shooting from the hip, that whole P area is going to have to be bridged. So that's going to be a pretty substantial cost to go down through that area. I didn't know, right now we're looking at roughly, I'd like to go ahead and start the engineering on it if we could. That would get us a little bit ahead on the grant side. And then also show our participation in the project, and also should help with our awarding with the cuts and things coming from the state. I'm not sure how that's going to affect the grant side of things. I did reach out to NDOT a few months ago. Actually, it's more than that. It was the end of last year when they had the 90-10 safety grant. I wanted to see if this would qualify. I still feel it should, but they say flooding will not qualify for a safety grant. Even though that the road has to be closed, it affects fire service, EMS service, and all that. I think that should qualify for safety, but it don't meet their criteria. But we'll go back under the normal federal 80-20 grant. The first phase that we was looking at doing, if we could, you guys are in agreement with starting it, would be topographic survey, bridge design development, utility review, geotechnical services, environmental review, Waters of the U.S. report, special investigations. It's looking at 240 days from the notice to proceed, and a fee of not to exceed of $228,800. That's why I wanted to bring that up, see if that is something you guys would be willing to participate in going forward and having done in the county. And if we did, if I needed to include that in my budget, if the commissioners was going to try to budget for it, or if you wanted me to request the council appropriate some funds for that. This area floods pretty often, normally about every inch of rain we get. If it comes pretty quick, we got to close that road. I think it would make a good project and also help with safety in that area. And there's been quite a few cars that's been totally submerged down through there. So I think it would also help with liability on our end. Like I said, I think it's going to be a pretty substantial cost. That's why I want to have this done, and then that will tell us engineering costs, what we're looking at, what would have to be done. Until this is done, it's anybody's guess. But
Okay. Are we still on County Road 56?
no, this is kind of 60.
60.
This is a different project.
County Road 427 and 69.
Yes.
Is that bridge that is there over the creek, is that a box or is that a bridge?
That is a small structure. That is a box
No.
structure.
And it's terrible shape. It's got
is.
a terrible hump in it. It's like going over a gigantic slow bump. If anybody's driven that road, it's you really have to slow down or you're going to be airborne.
Right.
So that's got to be replaced. Just a matter of information that has to be replaced. So whether we do the whole thing and fix the whole problem or just replace the bridge is kind of the things we need to consider.
The road keeps sinking a lot around each end of that structure. It's all peat, muck, marley soil.
Part of the bridge problem, I think the road has sunk, the bridge maybe hasn't.
Right. You know, we've got County Road 60 done now from County Road 35, and then after this year, it will be completed to State Road 205, with the exclusion of this section between 427 and 11A. I haven't done that one for a reason. I don't want to, when we improve a road, we increase the speed of the road. Mm-hmm. And I don't really want to have that happen until this is resolved. You know, we've just been maintaining it, chip sealing it, patching it. But that's a section in between that corridor that I'd like to finish, and this is a part of that.
Do we have any kind of a guesstimate what that might cost in totality?
Not at this point, not until, this will be the first step to see what's there, what we need to do. Right. I mean, that's why I said everybody can shoot from the hip. Mm-hmm. It's a huge guesstimate until this initial study is done, and then we'll kind of have a set of plans to go forward with, and then that won't be all the design, but it will be the beginning phase. And if we do get on a grant, we may even be able to get some of this reimbursed.
Would this be a reconstruction of that entire section of road like we did on 56? We'd go from
Probably, yes.
11A literally to 0427.
Yeah, because that's all marley soil from a little ways down from 69 all through the low area, almost back up to the crown on the east side. It's all, the road's all rolling, moving.
The
Is
maximum,
it muck under there or just?
It's all black soil out through there.
all muck bog. Comments, questions?
Sounds like it's certainly needed. I'm in favor of doing the first phase here to get at least some cost estimates. We know what we're looking at.
Got a motion?
That is so.
Okay, we have a motion to move forward with this.
I'll second it for more. Where would the funds come from?
That would be my,
Coming out of your budget, or is it we gonna go to the council and have them appropriate it, or are we gonna pull it out of ours?
now this won't all be due at once. And I can prolong out the work to be billed at different times throughout the remaining of this year if we start it now. So just remember, this funds won't all come out at one shot.
Yeah. And that was maxed out at what? Not to exceed?
200,
228.8, not to exceed.
And what company is it that would do that?
This is with USI Consultants.
Okay.
Okay, so what is, like, what do you have? What is that?
This is an agreement that they sent me for contractual work for, to
Okay.
do the design for County Road 60.
Additional comments?
we're gonna pull it out of his budget? I mean, you gotta answer the question of where the money's coming from.
Right, that's what we gotta figure out if I'm gonna do it, I'll probably have to budget it for 26. And then unless the commissioners have lighted funds left that they wanna put towards this, or when I come up for my budget presentation, I can request the council look at this and then appropriate money over for this.
But I'm in favor of going to council. Agree.
Okay, so I will take this to council and then see what they feel. Let's hold off on approving this and, until we see how funds are gonna come.
Well, we can,
You can, so you can approve it contingent
yeah,
on
we can go
funding.
ahead and prove it.
Approve it contingent on
Yeah.
funds, okay.
That way they know we're in favor of it. They've got the documentation and
Okay, I'm okay
we
with
would
that.
like to move forward with this. And any other comments?
Just, I would suggest maybe having Jim
Yeah.
amend his motion and Ellen amend the second.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'll amend the motion contingent on approval,
The council.
council.
And if they don't, okay, a motion second on the floor. Comments? Comments from the public? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion is approved.
So you guys wanna move forward with signing this and then
Yes,
let them know, I can let them know we've approved it, but it's on hold?
yeah. Do signatures today since this is the date the motion is done.
Okay, I'm good with that. I didn't expect to have it approved today, I just wanted to figure out how to, where we was gonna get the money out
We
of.
approved it, but you gotta get some funding.
I know
for
it.
So, the council is in control of the purse strings.
Yeah, well, I understand. Well, like I said, that's a project I've been really wanting to work on for a while, I just haven't.
With that big hump and the damage that comes from it, I'm surprised that they were okay with it not being in the safety.
I know,
I mean, that, you go over 20 miles an hour with that hump, you're going airborne pretty much. I was surprised that the safety didn't.
I said, I've got some projects I wanna work on and bring to you guys. I've been kinda holding off on the bigger projects, cause I knew we had the highway build. We had the 56 project coming that we didn't know what our funds was gonna be. I know you guys have the jail coming, so I didn't wanna be up here, you know, nagging for more money, but I also, these federal aid projects are, let's say we get awarded for this next year, they're a 5-year project before they're complete.
Yeah.
I mean, we have time to come up with the funds. We just gotta have a commitment letter to NDOT stating where the funds are gonna come from and that we're agreeing to pay for the project.
And as we saw with 56, kept getting pushed back
Yes.
several times, or 2 or 3 times, whatever.
And then also, if you remember, the original project cost if I remember correctly, it's like 3.4, 3.5 million. It ended up being 5.2 million. You know, so thankfully NDOT contributed into that, but that's a little bit of the risk with the federal aids. Of course, we hit massive inflation during that 56 project. Hopefully that don't happen again.
Right.
But it is something that can happen. So.
Do you already have 60 from 35 the other way in process?
60 is done from 35 and after this year to State Road 205 with the exception.
I'm going the other way.
I have a plan to do that.
Okay.
60 from 35 to St. Joe,
Yeah, that one.
I think was estimated to be right around 20 million. Remember that? I mean, I showed you that. It was
Yes, I think so.
somewhere. That's another one I'd like to finish at some point, but that's, we'll have to pay 20% of that. So whenever you guys would like to see it, let me know.
Not for another year and 9 months.
I understand. Well, like I said, this one's been bothering me because I feel this is a big liability on the county as well by, now at least we're starting towards it. This will be a good project to get completed. So, that's all I had for discussion for you guys today.
Okay, anything for Ben?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I got one thing that we'll bring up, Potter Drive.
Uh-huh.
You've given, city's doing maintenance on that, is that correct?
We did maintenance up till last summer, when the city annexed that. So the city's taken that over. Part of that annexation, the only thing that was not included in that was the cul-de-sac. I mean, all we have is the cul-de-sac. But the city's agreed to go ahead and plow that since they're out there. Plow it and salt it. But if there's any maintenance that needs done to the cul-de-sac, we would have to do as far as paving or patching or something like that. But other than that, I did see the emails. I was under the understanding that that was already all transferred to Auburn, but evidently, since that was,
It hasn't been officially transferred yet.
I'm guessing because it was the titled property to the commissioners, is why it's different than a normal annexation.
It's labeled as, Chris, you wanna come on up, please?
You're just in time, Chris.
That's the best.
Talking about Potter Drive. Oh. You walked in just the right time.
Yeah. I didn't bring any of the paperwork.
That's okay.
That's okay. You wanna turn the mic on?
So, wow, what do you want to know?
Well, they're just talking about it as far as it's been a different situation because the county owned the land
Yeah.
instead of an adjoining landowner or
It's basically like a private driveway for us, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
not,
And I don't, there's a covenants and agreement restrictions that I sent Andrew. I don't think there was anything in there that would limit the county from being able to deed it over to the city. I guess my only worry was that it ends up being something weird like the highway department with that property not getting transferred and potentially, I think you'd want to try to figure out how to write language in whatever agreement it would be that it becomes right of way with, as it is, as the city street is, or as we dedicate right of way in the county. It doesn't become the ownership of, I guess it is owned by the county, but it's not the title, right? Is that the term we're looking at?
So sometimes in our, I would say that most of the time, I think in the county, people own to the middle of this road, but not all the time.
Until they plat it
Until they plat it.
and get it subdivided.
So
But
do we want to basically deed the road land to the city of Auburn or only give them a road easement right away over it? That's the big question, and I guess that's somewhat up to
yeah,
city and county. And
Okay, so if everything goes to the city, then are we going to be allowed to go back to our building?
Unless we
Oh,
get some kind of.
well, it's a city street, it
Public
would be
street,
dedicated as a public street.
It'll be dedicated to the public, so
As long as it has the, because right now it's a private driveway, from what I understand, so if we give them the private driveway, it'd be their land.
Is that a private drive or is it a public?
I mean, the way it's.
It was in the agreement, in that 16-page agreement, it was dedicated to, it states something like it's dedicated to the public,
Okay.
but it's not showing that it's dedicated to the city of Auburn for the general use of the public, like our deed of dedications do on our plats.
when we originally did that, I remember the plans that the commissioners dedicated that roadway to the public. It's owned by you, it was dedicated for public use. Is that right?
But
Yep,
now,
and that's what the agreement says as well,
but I think the city wants it to be
under,
under
Their ownership.
control like it would be for any other development.
right.
And I've emailed Daryl McConnell back, I think my last email to him, maybe over the weekend, was, what language are you looking for there?
I don't
We
think,
can present it to you guys.
I don't think the county's gonna take it back. I mean, the city's not gonna.
It's already annexed into the city anyway.
It's already annexed in.
And aren't there developers that want to access Potter Drive for development too?
Is what they want.
Yeah.
So otherwise-
Probably, but in that agreement, you also have to give G and B, whatever, G and G, who farms that land? Whatever that was, they have to remain
still
having
have
access to it, right? And then there's also a drainage easement for some drainage utilities from Potter Drive over to whatever ditch is right there to the west.
And let me throw up
So there's
one
some
other
things that
thing.
have to remain.
If the county wants to actually deed the land and not just a right-of-way over it to the city, I think you may have to probably would have to get county council approval to sell land or something, right? Technically
I
speaking.
believe so.
Even if it's this sort of silly situation where we're not doing it for money, it is giving away county land, and I think there's a statute that says if you do that, you have to get council approval.
Yeah, I think there was probably a misstep somewhere when this road was done.
Well, the city wasn't able to accept it yet because they hadn't annexed it. That's probably what happened, partially.
True, but during the annexation process, it could have
It could have been.
happened then, but that,
Now they're trying to clean,
yeah,
get it all set up.
yeah. I just want to make sure whatever the county does, make sure that it's, doesn't become an issue in the future, that the city comes back and says, we're not going to give you access to community corrections. I don't know.
So if the city wants to propose to us the way they want, I can bring it back to
Yeah.
you guys and
That's probably a good idea.
talk about it.
But yeah, I thought that was done, and so I'm okay with it, so that's what she was asking.
Done but not done.
Done but
Anyway,
not
just
done,
wanted to
yeah.
Yeah.
Try to clear a little bit of the, get some input on that, go from there. Okay,
Yeah, I just see what they got to propose, but I don't think there'd be any issues with it.
Okay.
all right. Anything else for Ben? You are cut loose, bud.
Okay. You guys have a pledge at 10 o'clock today?
Yes.
I got to make some other errands, and I'll stick around for a little bit then.
Okay. Let's jump over and do a couple miscellaneous here, payroll bi-weekly.
I'll make a motion to accept payroll.
Second.
A motion second to approve payroll. Additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? Payroll is approved. Okay, claims. Motion to approve claims.
Would so move we approve the claims as presented.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. I do have a question on claims. Under courthouse repairs, 31046, Knox Excavating, I'm sorry. That has to do with the clerk's office. I assume there's 9,000.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
that clarifies that.
Okay.
Additional comments?
I have a question.
Sure.
The hardware under 33750, hardware maintenance, Motorola Solutions for $67,972.34.
That is the cloud services for the sheriff department vehicles. So all of their cameras and computer stuff inside their vehicles. It used to be that the deputies would have to drive over by the sheriff's department and then something would sync together, and now they can be out anywhere and it will automatically sync and upload whatever they need to upload.
So does that include like body cameras? Well, or is that just in vehicles?
I think it does their body cameras also. Like, I think they can get their footage wherever they're at onto their computer or wherever, and then it goes up to the cloud.
This is an annual maintenance?
Yes.
Or not maintenance?
Yes,
but an annual-
it was May 25 to May 26.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments, questions? Go for a vote then. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Real quick, the minutes. You had some changes, I
I
think.
did, I talked to Susan, the change, I talked to each one of you individually, so I would like to make a motion to accept the minutes with the changes I proposed.
For both April 28th and May 1st?
For just April 28th for right now.
Okay.
I will second.
A motion second on the floor. Additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Minutes are approved. Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the May 1st minutes.
I will second.
A motion second to approve May 1st minutes. Additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Both minutes are approved. Okay, Mr. Gomer, you are back up. Officially.
Got your stuff down. Working too hard, huh?
Just doing too much. I printed off these. It's just the staff report for the rezone that we are hearing today. Its property owner is Joe DePrisco at the southeast corner of County Road 327 and County Road 68 in Garrett, just south of Holiday Lakes there. Looking for a zone map amendment from R1 low-density residential to A2 agricultural. It's approximately 15 acres. Well, that's not right.
Okay.
That, I don't know what happened there. I PDF'd it, so it should be,
And you're.
looking
what you
like
sent
this.
me is, yeah. I'm not sure why I did that.
I'm not sure why I did that either. Did it print right on the ordinance, Susan? Did the aerial maps and stuff print correctly?
Because it's showing, like, it's taking up half the properties north of it and south of it. I mean, it's, has that whole.
No, that's wrong. I'll have to print those pages again. Shoot. I'll print those before we leave. Should be looking like this, the southeast corner there. Thank you for that catch. That'd have been fun to fix later. Again, going from R1 to A2 agricultural, has a future land use map designation of residential use, which is compatible to the A2 agricultural. In your packet shows the difference between the R1 and the A2. Basically, the R1 is a more dense residential use. The A2 agricultural allows for agricultural uses in single-family homes. Mr. DePrisco is in the process of getting permits for his single-family house. He did go through the platting process. It's been platted as a buildable lot. His future, in the R1 low-density residential use, you can't have farm animals. His granddaughter would like some horses in the future. So he would, either have to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals or this rezone would have to get approved for that use. Went to the Plan Commission on last Monday and got a favorable recommendation from the Plan Commission to the county commissioners.
Comments, questions?
Nope, I don't have any questions about it. Verify the,
The map, I'm sorry.
you're good.
I didn't check that.
I have a comment. I voted against this in Plan Commission because the A2 would allow confined feeding, and that would put that under the jurisdiction of allowing confined feeding in the vicinity of probably 24 maybe or more houses
More than that.
within a quarter mile of that property. You got all the properties along 327 to the west. You got Holiday Lakes to the north. And if that property changes hand, I mean, I trust the gentleman has no intention of putting confined feeding in there. If that changes hands and the next owner says, oh, this is zoned for confined feeding, I'm going to apply for a confined feeding permit, and we're going to have one of these brouhahas, debates and debacles that pop up, people disagreeing and not being happy about the situation. So that's why I voted against it, but that was the only vote against it.
I would so move we accept the application as presented.
A motion second on the floor. Additional comments? Comments from the public? All those in favor?
Comment, please.
Yes, sure.
Number one, if there was a confinement feeding operation going in, I believe it would have to come before us before that would be approved. Am I correct?
A full-on confined animal feeding.
If it's
might-
above the item, at or above
Right.
the item regulations, it would have to go to Plan Commission for development plan approval. But if it's one that's under or isn't regulated by item, then it would not.
So the problem is if it's 29,000 chickens, which seems
27.
27,000 chickens, it's under whatever their limit is. It's the same thing for what, 229 cows or something? So it's not technically a confined animal feeding operation, but some people might consider it a large feeding operation.
Right.
Well,
Unless there's an ordinance put in place that, but as of right now, we would
There's
have-
nothing, correct.
There's nothing.
I'd have a hard time, you know, if it's proposed, that would be one thing, but to make the point that it can happen, and until it does happen, I would not be happy with that. Having said that, I doubt if the 14 acres with the setbacks, it could happen, but I wouldn't believe it would happen.
Would the setbacks on the property that size allow?
It could, so,
It would depend on where their horse barn is.
We're talking about the horse barn. Talking about confined
What-
feeding.
He was talking about the granddaughter having horses. I'm assuming that there'll be a barn for the horse.
Yeah, obviously, that's within,
Yeah.
I'm
saying wherever that horse barn and the house are, additional setbacks for confined feeding would, 14 acres might,
No, I mean-
might be difficult to find.
items regulations dependent on, well, they have additional setbacks from septic and other properties and property lines and things like that, that are, I think, like 100 feet. So it could go somewhere, probably more within the center of the property or kind of in the southeast quadrant. But if it's something that's under items numbers, then the setbacks are just 50 feet off of, 50 feet plus whatever the thoroughfare plan is. So probably a minimum of 80 feet off the center of the roads and then 30 feet off the side and rear. So our setbacks are much less for those type of projects, for anything under items regulations.
I think we need to have a real conversation about these going forward. I mean, Ben's brought up the damage to the roads. We've had public complaint. We have really no guidance for anything under IDEM. I think it's an overall conversation that we probably need to have going forward too on these confined feeding operations, or what do you want to call them that is underneath the confined feeding operations, because Ben's pointed out that the increased traffic of the chicken farms and the dairy farms and all the ones that we're talking about here is definitely doing a lot more damage to the roads, so there needs to be some kind of conversation, I believe. But on this one, I'm fine with going forward with it, so.
Okay. Now, this is a situation the road would support. 327 would support that kind of traffic. So it'd be a prime spot as far as setbacks and road access, but obviously it's going to cause a lot of riff if somebody does come in there and propose a confined feeding operation. Just trying to avoid problems in the future, but that's my opinion. We have a motion and a second on the floor, I do believe. All those in favor, barring any other comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Hey, Chris, what else you got? That's all I got. All you got?
The signature page is separate than the maps, so we can go ahead and sign that.
And was it the goal of the map? I know that the dotted yellow line crosses the road, so I don't know how accurate you need that picture to be.
I'll change, I'm gonna go back to my.
You know what I mean, like shrink it just slightly, sort of thing?
Reprint it all, it's correct.
Okay.
The Word document, I don't know why.
Well, like the one page, it shows it covering those neighboring lots, which you're gonna change that, but the other pages sort of show it sneaking up on it.
It's how the PDF works.
Okay.
I'll fix it.
What was sent to us in the email was correct, and what you printed off for some reason didn't come across as the same. We looked at it during the drainage board, so we know where it's at.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Let's move on. Andrew, you want to come up and take care of your business?
Just sit up here. We want to go that side now. Oh, okay.
Andrew Provines. I actually only need a minute or two, and it's about the permits. Basically, Butler utilizing the county's permitting system, so I'm just bringing that back. Chris and I sat down last week. Currently, there's an interlocal agreement, like we said before. It's with all of the cities, towns, except for Auburn.
Right.
So this would really just be an addendum specifically for Butler. We had looked at doing our own permitting software. We had 3 or 4 different companies we were looking at and decided any way we spun it, we were going to have to stay separate from the county, which would cause us to log our own ILPs, send it off to the county. It just made more sense to put this under the, not control per se, but have the county store it. That way we could line up our permit numbers and really keep the systems in sync, making it easier for us as well as the county. So we put together an addendum specific to the city of Butler. I just wanted to tell you what those points are before I write it up and send it off to Mr. Cruz and Mr. Stuckey, City of Butler's lawyer, just to see if you guys had any input or anything else you wanted to see specifically in that. So the first one is really that the county would be responsible for the storage and release of the improvement location permits. That really just means it will be stored on your permitting system. We're not going to keep extra storage space for those permits. And if someone needs to get them from the system, it would have to be that county system. So it's just that storage and transfer of information is going to go through the county. Second one is that we would retain the final say on those permits, obviously. We don't really want the county saying, yes, you can do this, giving that final approval. We would still want to say, yes, you can or can't do this. Obviously, once it passes past the ILP to the building permit, that has been on the county for years now, so that no control would change there. The city of Butler is looking to utilize the standard DeKalb County improvement location permit. We're not asking that our permit be put into the system. We would just adopt the county's permit. We were looking at making changes to our ILP anyways, and it lines up very well with what the county currently does. So we intend to just utilize that. Another one is, we're really not looking to make this system unique to us. We're not looking for the county to also provide us with any sort of real services on bringing old permits in. We'll bring those in ourselves. So once we have access, we'll bring all our historical ones into the system, obviously running it by the planning department before we do anything, but bringing those into the system. We're not looking for the county to do that or to hire someone to help us bring those in. The same with the county currently does not utilize the online permit submission form. We would intend to utilize that. It's a part of the system, but it's not something we would start off doing. And if anything that we made, the county is obviously more than welcome to utilize or change how they see fit. The last piece is really we were trying to figure out what would be a fair dollar amount. And obviously, this is the biggest reason I wanted to bring it to you guys so that you guys could go through this. My reasoning here is we currently charge around somewhere between $10 and $15, depending on what type of permit it is. They're all ILPs, but they're for different reasons. So like a fence permit, $10. Like most other types of permit, $15. We do less than 100 permits a year. So I would say on average for the last few years, it's like anywhere from 60 to 80, okay? I took the higher of the number, $15 for a permit, and I said 100. And I came up with 1,500. Now, we can obviously talk more about that. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are, but we would also intend that as the county goes up each year, so they increase yours, it's going to be 7% year after year here. We would obviously increase with that ratio. We're not looking to stay at 1,500 and just stay there forever. When you guys get an increase, we would increase with you. So those are the pieces I have. I want to know what your guys' thoughts were, and obviously, Mr. Cruz, if you have anything verbiage-wise or something you want me to put in there, once I send it across, I know the lawyers are going to rewrite it. So, but if there's anything you need from me to get that moving.
I mean, right now, I'm fine with what you've suggested as far as the dollar amount and stuff. That's up to the commissioners, but in principle, I'm fine with what you've suggested.
Questions, comments?
I'm good with it. I don't think there's any, I think it would help the city of Butler residents, even though it's only 60 to 100 permits a year, help them either A, start at one location theoretically, right? Like if they start at Butler, they don't have to come to the county, then to literally drive to the county to bring us their permit. We can just, once it's done, Andrew can email us and say permit blah, 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 blah is ready to be issued, and we can call them and get them to pay their fee and do it all.
And we had looked into
over the phone.
using the same software.
Yeah.
Having, hey, this is the same software. Can you guys link our system since the county takes care of the building permits? And they're like, no, we don't link systems. And that was when we started saying, if I have an ILP that's 2025-01,
Right.
it'd be really nice for him to be able to see it and submit, building permit 2025-01.
Yeah.
And that's a huge help to both.
Basically, the city of Butler would just be an additional user on top of the users that over with my staff, right? So they wouldn't be their own separate entity with this company. They'd just be an additional user for the county.
What's the increased cost for us?
Nothing.
True.
Nothing.
We're literally looking for this, aside from us having a final say on the ILP, we're looking to adopt the county's procedures and permitting here.
How much do you, City of Butler, pay right now currently for that system?
We don't have a
You
permitting.
don't have any?
No.
So
Okay.
the interlocal agreement is, what's the square footage calculation on our?
Yeah, so
I can't remember.
it's
So each,
square mile times 1,500, is
is
it?
that what it is? I don't remember.
I think it's square mile times 1,500.
For our building permits. So each municipality, except Auburn, pays the county money for us to issue their building permits and then do their inspections. And it's based off of the square footage of each municipality, of how they pay.
Per square mile.
Per square mile, right,
Times
sorry, not square footage.
$1,500 per square mile. The reason we went down from that amount is because it doesn't include the cost of a building inspection, et cetera. So it didn't make sense to do the same calculation since there is no building inspection and that kind of stuff. It's just storing and.
Yeah.
Then we go up 7% every year.
About.
And we wouldn't write it in as 7%, just in case you guys eventually go 8 or 9 or whatever. We would
Basically just link the systems
link-
with the, or the, not
We'll
link.
go up the same percentage as you guys go each year.
Yep.
And obviously, we would want to do this basically on a yearly, we don't even have to re-sign every year, but if something changes and it becomes more costly, obviously, we wouldn't want ourselves locked in. We would want to help bear the burden of that cost based on if it goes up.
Yeah.
It is a win for the county. Help pay for a program that we already have,
Yeah.
sounds like.
What do the rest of the towns do right now?
Waterloo has their own permitting software. Garrett has a similar system to what Butler uses now. They have their own, I think, an Excel program that just tracks what they do. St. Joe is so minimal. Town of Ashley is so minimal as well, that they don't have their own either. If this works out, I think that it would be nice if each municipality would be under our permitting software. It would make it a heck of a lot easier for everyone involved. This is a great idea that Andrew had to help out the county and help out the city in getting this going.
And Waterloo has iWork.
Right.
And it's one of those scenarios where it's a great permitting software. But once again, there's no link between them and the county. So
Right.
you still have to balance your permits back and forth.
Motion?
They don't have final contract language.
Yeah, sorry.
yet to vote on.
Unless you want to make a motion to say we're fine with the dollar amount, that would work for me because then I can succinctly put it in there. But really, I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts and questions, and then I could finalize this, send it over to both lawyers, let them do their things.
Because for interlocal agreements, both parties have to adopt the same exact.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's do that.
Really nothing to do until they,
I'm okay with the 1,500 with the 7% increase.
You can give a sense of the meeting here that you guys are okay
Yeah,
with it.
that's fine.
Okay, but we're not doing a 7%.
I know, but for him writing the contract, and we'll look at the contract.
Some sort of
when it
increase.
comes to it, that's what I would feel would be fair in this deal, to give him a starting point.
Is that a motion?
No, not a motion, just a comment.
As long as you guys are good with it, that's what I'll write it up for. And obviously, if you change your mind, just Andrew and Don Stuckey will both have this. So
Okay.
I appreciate it. Appreciate your
That to
time.
us, we'll go from there. Thanks, Andrew. Okay, moving on to miscellaneous. Ingress, egress easement agreement.
Chris?
You're not gonna get away from us.
Ingress, egress for dispatch.
Ingress, egress for dispatch, ingress, egress for dispatch. What was I talking about? So what we found out was that there is an ingress, egress easement, along the north side of Fawn Creek, that development there, out to, basically just out to where the, like the high school entrance exit is. So basically you take Central Communications and go out to the road there and that's your easement. There is not an easement in place currently from Central Communications down to County Road 34. So the county would need to create one, or Andrew and Zach would need to create an ingress egress easement.
And
From
Zach
communication.
has created it.
Oh, he has, okay.
And I think they're gonna take it, I think they might take it to their meeting on May 22nd.
Okay.
Whatever meeting that is that they've gotta do for that.
Does it involve both parcels? Is it, when I look at here, if you want to come look, Chris. It shows this parcel here,
Right.
then you have this parcel here, which
Yep.
is also owned by the city, which
There
is.
should be two separate parcels that,
Is that on the, because you have parcel 05-06-16-17-002, and then right above it, it's the same, but it's just -003. This,
I'll
it's a little
try to
sliver
pull up
of
the
something
agreement.
there.
He's looking at this. This one has.
Yeah, two parcel numbers.
You have this section here, and you have this little sliver of a section for some reason. Then it has, and then it goes to us. So I just want to make sure that the language has an easement goes through, is deeded, or whatever the terminology is, for both those parcels all the way to our property.
Well, so it's saying here in the recitals, but then there should be, I thought one of the agreements had some legal description in it. So it references 002 and 003, right? What you're talking about in the
it should
recitals.
just say the roadway from county
County Road 34.
property to county. Legal description.
Correct, it says,
The road access between, something similar to that.
approximately 1,065 feet in length and 25 feet in width, comprising the driveway located on the city's tract.
Yep.
That's what it says as far as for the.
And that's all you
drives.
really need for the easement language. I wouldn't do a legal description.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure so that we don't have an issue like we have for Botto Drive and other things. Little piece got missed, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
we're coming back to the conversation again here.
Well, it mentions both tracks in that easement,
Okay.
2 and 3. So, and you're saying you only see those two tracks there, so we should be okay, I think.
I just wanted.
Unless there's another sliver in there, we can add.
I just wanted to make sure that the language was correct on both tracks. I saw that they were kind of together. I just wanted Chris to make sure.
Should any language be added just in case the city would split any other property off in there? Like if I think that's a cell tower there, or some sort of communication towers. If the communication tower would ever get
That's a
split off.
substation, the tower's
Okay.
here.
Oh, the tower's there, okay.
Yeah, the tower's split in half already.
that's the
For some
substation.
reason, the substation's south of
Okay.
it.
Well, I mean, once we get this recorded, it should be linked into those two parcels and be permanent there.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify,
Yeah,
make sure that we don't have to clean it up later on again.
it should be okay.
The next paragraph, whereas grantee is the owner of certain adjoining tract of real estate known as 3399 County Road 35. What is that?
Is that Central Communications address?
No, it should
35 would
be, it should be 34.
Oh, okay. Did it say
different
30?
parcel number.
Okay.
What is that?
It may have it sounds like it's got the wrong
Here,
What's that, 3390?
county road number on it.
grantee. I was thinking,
Is that right?
like,
The
Turn
old-
your address, please.
Yeah, 04004. What is that parcel? Why is it?
It's just a typo from 30, it should be County Road 34.
Because that's the county's address, is that? Okay.
Yeah,
It's
it's-
the,
I'll let Zach know there's a typo in
A
that.
different parcel number also.
And that parcel number is actual central communications.
There's a parcel number in there, but
Oh,
it gives the
okay.
wrong county road number.
Right.
That is, okay.
But I,
3399, County Road 34. So it's just a typo. It should be County Road 34, not County Road 35. And that's, so he's using the longer parcel ID numbers than the short ones. So
Yeah, because he added
Yeah,
the 000-007.
so that should just be County Road 34, not County Road 35.
I changed it.
Okay.
You've looked over this, right? Okay.
Very good with that? Make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
A motion and a second on the floor. Additional comments from the public? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
I just need your signature at the top there.
Mr. Mahan,
Yeah.
You'll follow up with the changes, Andrew?
Already,
I already
I
changed,
think the Board of Works is on the 22nd. They're gonna,
and the only change was the county road number, right, I think?
and I already
Yep.
changed it.
carry on. Okay, everyone, we're back from break. So let's get going on this healthcare presentation. Lauren and Billy, good to see you.
Yeah, you too. Good morning.
Mic's on, mic's closed. What you got for us today?
Good. So we have our benefit renewal report. So all the marketing efforts that we did, all the results are in this attached reporting. So if you flip to the first page, you can see on the medical side who we quoted. So for the admin, we looked at Surest as the incumbent. So we have our incumbent renewal from Surest. And then we also looked at PHP and Anthem as additional options for the admin. Then on the stop loss side, you can see that we quoted several stop loss carriers as well as some stop loss carriers that PHP quoted. All right. If you flip to the first page, this is the page that we're going to spend the most amount of time on. So this has our Surest renewal. Current is in the first column. Then we have our firm renewal from Surest in the second column. Then we have our most competitive competition. So PHP and Companion Life or ISI were the most competitive after the renewal. So you can see our renewal on that second column. No lasers, which is great. However, the fixed costs on the specific side, they came in with a 39.6 increase. So that's on just the specific stop loss, $232,000 increase on spec. And then on the aggregate side, they also have a 25.5% increase on ag, which is just a little over 11,000. So all in renewal from the Surest United Healthcare stop loss was 38.6%. It's about a $241,000 increase on fixed costs. So those costs that we know we're going to incur. So looking down at the maximum claim liability, there's also a pretty significant increase to that on the renewal, 27% increase or 1.1 million on your max liability. So a pretty significant increase there to max liability. That would be your worst case claim scenario year. So total fixed and max costs, which is what you budget to right now, is that max liability, is a 28% increase or 1.345 million. On fixed and expected, 28%, it's 1.12 million for the renewal from Surest. Any questions on the renewal?
Lauren, could you explain to this group what a laser is?
Yeah, absolutely. So stop loss covers the known risks, the unknown risks. So those risks that we don't see coming, those large claim hits. What they don't cover are our known risks. So if we have a claimant who they know is going to go over the $125,000 spec, let's say they have a chemotherapy treatment that we know is going to cost $200,000 for the year. They won't take that risk on. They will laser that member out. And they'll say, if it's Lauren McMahon, they will say that Lauren McMahon has a $200,000 laser because we know she's going to spend $200,000. So if you go over that, then of course it'll be covered like usual. But if they know a condition is going to cost a certain amount, they will not cover it within the spec.
Amy, do you have a copy of this? Do you have another copy? Amy's is a member of the council. You want to sit on, I asked her actually to sit on this presentation.
Perfect.
I didn't get that to you sooner.
So the laser basically is on you, it'd be, instead of doing 125, they're gonna go to 200, and after 200, then it's going to be covered.
Yep,
So
exactly.
they just say, hey, for that extra little bit, okay, just for clarification.
Yep, that's perfect. You're exactly right. So I have an additional $75,000
That
of
we're gonna have to
liability
cover.
just on, just on me individually.
Okay.
Yep. So no lasers on the renewal. but pretty significant increase. Our projection, we expected around, I think it was 21%, let me just check. 20.4% was what we projected, and it came in 28.3, so a little over what we projected for max cost increase. All right, if you're ready, we can look at our most competitive option. We quoted PHP as the admin, and one of their preferred stop-loss carriers is Companion Life. So looking at our apples-to-apples option, which is the $125,000 specific like you currently have, there is one laser. It's a conditional laser on a treatment that individual is going through a little bit inconsistently, but it is one of your higher claimants. And it is, yes, page 8 has the conditional laser listed out on the bottom. So it's a Factor Products for treatment and inhibitors, which is what that individual is going through. We did run that past our Kinetic Health team, and they are expecting that that is a controllable risk. That individual has had some inconsistent treatments, but they expect that those treatments will fall off.
What's the laser increase for that particular individual?
So it is a conditional laser on that treatment, so it doesn't have a dollar amount on it. They're saying for that treatment, it won't be covered under stop loss.
So anytime they get a,
Yeah, at all.
so anytime they get a Factor product or treatment for inhibitor,
Yep.
we will have to cover all of that every time.
Correct. Now, if they have a heart attack, that's fully covered because it is an unknown risk and it's covered under stop loss. So they're just saying on that specific treatment. And those are already in your claims.
A conditional laser might be a little bit better than a blanket laser, the way I'm.
Can be, depending on, yeah,
Wouldn't
depending
have
on
to
the
be, but it could
condition,
be.
yeah. If they say like that, this person's breast cancer isn't covered, then that could be, you know, something very expensive. Could be
Right.
something that could keep us from moving forward, yeah.
But if it's an intermediate one,
Yep.
then maybe, yeah, then everything else is covered.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. So looking at the contract is matching your current contract, so at 2412, going back 2 years, and covering paid claims within the year. So fully covered on that side. Our corridor or attachment level is 125%. It's the same as your current contract, meaning if you go over 25% over expected costs, that is when they start covering your aggregate claims. So no change there. On the cost side, so we're looking at box B, the specific reinsurance. For that same contract, $125,000, they're proposing a 2% increase to fixed costs, so just over $11,000. If you increase your specific to $150,000, so $150,000 for each individual, an additional $25,000 in risk per person.
Oh, can you go back real quick?
Yeah.
So our renewal is wanting to increase the administration fee by 40%, and this other one's wants 2%?
Not admin, it is just your cost for that specific stop-loss coverage.
Look at line B, which is that first
Yes.
orange line.
2% fee, okay.
Underneath that, there's,
Specific, yeah.
Why is there such a big difference there, I guess? What
So
would be some of the reasoning?
their reasoning is that they think that they over-risked that group. They think that the cost will come in lower than what the underwriters of United Healthcare thought. You can see when we look through, we'll go through pages, some of the other competition. We have everything from 18%, 20%, up to 40% overall.
When I'm looking at insurance, basically has everybody at $312.87. This other company is employee, spouse, children, family, they have it risked differently, that's how I'm understanding this?
Yeah, so this is just how they charge. What United Healthcare does is they charge a composite rate saying whether that person's on employee-only coverage or family coverage, it's the same cost. Everybody does it a little bit differently, so rather than a composite rate, Companion Life broke it down to each tier of coverage. So if you have more employee-only people jump on, it's gonna cost you less with this group than it is, you know, with UHC.
Okay,
Yep.
makes sense, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very good question. So if you increased your spec to the $150,000 level, took on a little bit additional per person, there is a almost 15% decrease over current on spec. You can see that that's gonna save you $86,000 from current. And if you're looking at the difference between the 125, yeah.
It's in the last column, so she's comparing,
Okay, I was like,
sorry.
where did you
I
jump
knew
to
that,
there?
I knew.
Sorry. Yeah, so I'm
Oh, so
looking
you
at,
went over to the next one, okay.
yes, so I'm looking at the two side by side, the 125 and the 150,000 from the same carrier.
So the only thing different is in the blue up at the top, $150,000 spec deductible versus the $125,000 specific deductible on each individual.
So we would pay an extra 20, the difference is we'd pay an extra 25 per individual.
If they go up and over the
But
125.
once they're over the 150, they cover everything, correct?
Yep.
That's the only difference?
That's it. So when you're looking at the savings between the two, you're looking about $97,000 in difference between the fixed cost of the $125,000 spec and the $150,000 spec. You would have to have 4 claimants go over $125,000 to lose, quote, lose on that bet of increasing.
How many do we have left?
So right now, you're looking at, yeah, another good question. You have 3 people currently who are over spec. I could see maybe one more hitting, assuming the claims stay consistent to what they're doing right now. So I think that you really couldn't make a bad choice in this scenario, but personally, I would say take the fixed cost savings, because when we get down, I'll explain why when we get down to our maximum liability.
And then they have a laser, is it a different laser for this?
Same laser. Yep, so it's that one person, that one treatment, the conditional laser.
Amy, do you have a question?
Perfect.
I'm on the laser page, it says proposal 2, the
So-
blue is 350.
These are just all the different carriers, all the different stop-loss carriers. When we're looking at proposed 1, that is the companion life proposal, and you can see that that is covering the 125 and the $150,000 spec option. Like
Proposal
in that
2.
yellow box, proposed 1.
Yes, proposed 1, but proposed 2 has,
So,
that's something different than what we're talking about with
yep, that's
companion-
something
okay.
totally different.
Okay,
Next page.
I wanted to make sure it
That's a
was,
different stop-loss
Yep.
carrier.
so this proposed 1 is both
Yes,
companion
both spec
live,
options.
but there's just 2 on there.
Yep,
correct? Okay.
exactly.
Okay, because this one has 2 of the same company, this one's a different company. Okay, I got you, okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, a lot of
So,
numbers.
yeah, so personally, I would say that that's a safe bet to go. You're hitting about 3 right now. And I would take the fixed cost savings on the chance that you may have fewer high claimants next year and take that fixed cost savings. But we'll talk more about that when I get to the
Now,
maximum liability.
one of those ones that went above, is it the guy that, the person, I don't know if it's a guy or girl?
No,
The Factor
actually,
production, was that one of them, or is that something completely separate?
no, he was lower down on the cost list. He wasn't that high. I can look that up though in a little bit and tell you like where that number's at on costs right now.
Well, they're cutting out, they're lasering out the gentleman with the Factor products, but he's not one of the ones that went over last year, so I'm confused why they would have lasered it out if it's,
It's just because it's a little bit unpredictable and the treatments have been a little bit, they aren't consistent. So like he might get an injection and then have several months where there's no injection. So they're just saying that it's too unpredictable for them to say, okay, that person's gonna spend X amount.
okay.
And in
It
addition,
wasn't because he kept going over, it
No.
was,
No.
okay.
he was under, but I'll say it was was under, but it was consistent. And our clinicians, our nurses think that the next step for that individual might be hospitalization so that these treatments are not going to be used anymore. The next
How
thing
is the hospitalization going to be covered under the 100?
Yes, because it's
Okay.
only conditional on that treatment.
Just the treatments, the Factor product and the inhibitor, okay.
Yes.
And sorry, I was,
Sorry for all the questions.
no, it's great. It's really good. Good questions. I might have to, oh, wait, here it is. So that number is at 88,000 or 89,000 for the year right now. And they just had really one big claims month in January.
Okay.
Great. No, you're good. This is such good questions. All right, so on the aggregate side, so this is a much smaller dollar amount than the specific side. So the swings in costs look higher, but they're really, not significant cost-wise. If you stay at the $125,000 spec level.
We're now in section D.
Thank you. Wait, no, B.
Or we're still in B?
Yeah, still in B, just
Okay,
looking at ag fixed
Sorry,
costs.
sorry, sorry.
Nope, you're good. So that section B, the aggregate reinsurance, we're looking at the fixed cost to cover your overall claims. So that is for $125,000 spec, a 1.9% decrease. If you go up to the $150,000 spec, it's a 16% increase. However, that's just it's $7,100 because the cost of that insurance is much lower than the individual specific. So that is what covers you up to the spec level as a group. Yep. So that's why it's slightly more expensive, because they're covering a little bit more if your spec goes up per person. But looking at all-in reinsurance total fixed costs, $10,000, $11,000 increase for if we move to PHP Companion Life, $125,000, and a 12.5% decrease if we go up to the $150,000 spec level. Okay, so that is the stop loss piece. So looking at admin, box C is where we're looking at admin costs. We have your current, and then we have your renewal from Surest. Then we have the PHP quote, which is put in with the Companion Life. So if you're looking at box C to the far right, that is PHP's cost for admin. Annually, it is $139,000, and we are going to talk about why. We are going to talk about why. There is a reason, and it's a good one. It is a good one. So let's actually, you want to just flip right there? Yep. Nope, you're good, and I understand. I do get it.
Where we going?
So we are looking at page 9, okay? So this is our medical admin. You can see your current and renewal. Then PHP is in the proposed 1 box, and Anthem is in proposed 2. The difference in the costs, if you look at pharmacy credit, which is about 2/3 of the way down, and you can see the red offset on all of the others. PHP, we negotiated all of their pharmacy contracts with our Apex Pharmacy negotiation or pharmacy consulting firm called Innovative RX. They will pass through 100% of your pharmacy rebates directly to you, rather than doing an admin credit of that coming right back. The difference in that is that rather than just getting that credit immediately, you do have to wait for the rebates. There's a lag on when those pay out. It's about a 6-month lag so if you started your new plan January 1st, you would be getting your Q1 rebates during Q3. From that point on, you're going to be getting rebates every quarter consistently. There's just a lag in that first claims payment. And then if you ever ended the plan, you would have, an extra couple of payments from the time the plan ended because of that lag.
So we pay the $135,000, and then we get rebates back that cuts down on that later on. That's why it's such a big difference.
Exactly. And because of your spend, you have a high specialty spend on the pharmacy side. I would expect that you would win overall and get more rebates back than you would get in an admin credit. I'm telling you that Surest and Anthem, they're not going to lose money, okay, by giving you that admin credit. They're probably going to be retaining more of that you should really be getting back to the plan.
That makes sense, okay.
To elaborate, that $50 per employee per month credit comes to right under 125,000, so it's 124 something, okay? The difference between that and PHP's admin is PHP without that credit is $104,000 higher for the admin. So take that credit out and get rebates that are more than $125,000. In the end, you're going to win. Does that make sense?
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're okay. No, self-funded.
Amy,
So this
why-
is just
Amy,
admin only.
Why don't you come here so you can talk to the mic so people can hear you?
We're currently self-funded.
Yes. So this would be continuing self-funded. Yep.
Any questions will be.
Yep, so the Surest, PHP, and Anthem are all just admin only. Yep, thank you. You're welcome. The PBM, or the Pharmacy Benefit Manager with PHP, is Prime Therapeutics. So that is one of the contracts that we negotiated with our innovative team.
We're exclusive with them?
So right now you're with Optum, you would be making a Pharmacy Benefit Manager move to Prime Therapeutics, and then yes, they would be the
I
only.
remember we had a conversation about Optum being not a good choice for us, because we were
So
locked in
Optum
with
is
them.
the only choice with Surest, and they've negotiated that contract, AKA they own the PBM. So,
Okay,
it's,
okay.
yeah,
The contract language is not in your favor when it's
Correct.
Optum.
With them, yes. That's what, I remember we having a conversation
Yes.
about that, so I was just double checking.
exactly. Nope, you've got it. Does that make sense why the admin is that big jump? Yeah, absolutely. All right, so if you want to go back to page 3, we are going to talk about that maximum claims liability. So that's your worst case scenario, 125% of expected costs. So those factors, rather than being a composite factor, very similar to the cost of the specific, they've also tiered that out, employee only, employee child, employee spouse family. So they are looking at a 2.9% increase to go from current to go to the 125 spec, or a 5.8% increase to go to the 150 specific, just because again, they're taking on a little bit extra liability, that extra $25,000 per person on the aggregate side. So it's slightly more expensive to go that route. Now, if you go down to total fixed and expected, that's when we see, that's the very last box. That's where we're gonna see our overall increase. So we're looking at just over 5% all in on both options.
So that 4,181,425,
That's what
that
we
could be,
expect.
that could be lower
It could
with the,
totally, yes.
with the rebates that we get.
Yep, exactly. So we're saying you
These
have,
two options, the PHB could be lower than the 4 million, because of the rebates we'd get back
Yep.
from the
Yes.
RX. Okay.
so when we will recalculate your premium equivalents based on one of these contracts, whichever you select, so we'll be able to see, we'll have them put in estimated rebates with that lag, so we can see what the increase would, what we would really expect it to be with the rebates.
So can you repeat that again?
Yeah, so we'll recalculate the projection
Based off of last year's
based
data?
off of, yeah, based off last year's data with one of these firm contracts so that we can see the premium equivalents. We'll have them put in some estimated rebates, of course, conservatively.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So the total fixed and max cost is above that. It's in line E. Again, it's gonna be 5 to 5.5%. So your all-in worst-case scenario, you're looking at just over 5 million. Whereas with the renewal, you would have been at 6.14.
So currently with Surest, we've gotten 2 rebates back in '25 for like a total of 133,693. And that is with them keeping some for themselves, correct?
So they must be passing through some, yeah. Is was it from United Healthcare as a stop-loss reimbursement, or did it actually say pharmacy rebate credit?
They come through as pharmacy rebates.
Okay, I'll dig into that a little bit, and actually that information would be good for our estimation purposes as well.
Can you say that total again, Susan?
Yeah, just a total, now this is for two
Okay.
that we see, 133,693.
Thank you.
So the two proposals for the PHP, the first proposal would be better because the second proposal is 0.1% more, but we also have to increase the 25,000 for the stopgap, correct?
So that is your max liability. They're saying that there is a little bit of additional exposure by, like $5,000 for your all-in liability, but those are unknowns. The claims are an unknown, so we don't know that we're gonna spend that much. The fixed costs are known, but if you went with the $150,000, we would know we were gonna save 80 grand, or with, the difference, 90 grand difference from the $125,000 option.
The B section.
Yeah, I personally would roll the dice on that and get that fixed cost savings we know we're gonna get on the chance that claims are lower this year. Because we have that all-in protection that they are not gonna go over the 125%. If you wanna be conservative, however, and just leave the protection at $125,000 and pay a little bit more in fixed costs, that would be,
I'm just looking down the total fixed and expected cost, that is not much of a difference, but
Right.
I see what you're saying.
Yes.
This was estimated that this is what it would end up being.
exactly, these are what they think your claims are gonna land at.
Yeah. Okay.
Any questions on those?
We used to be with PHP, and they were a very broad network.
Yes.
We have employees who are very concerned that we will not be going to a narrow network, meaning one of the two large hospital networks in the area. Can you confirm that it is still a broad network?
PHP Freedom is a broad network. It covers all the hospital systems in the area, IU Health, Parkview, and Lutheran. For the record, let the record show. If you flip to page 10, what we did was we had a plan design quoted, because when stop-loss carriers are looking at those plan designs, they want to know how much, each employee is covering in deductible. So we put some numbers out there. These plan design options can be changed, absolutely. There could be potentially some small changes in rates if we do make a plan design change. But I added in a deductible of $3,500 embedded and $7,000 family. And then I left your max out of pocket at $5,000, $10,000 embedded. So that we would be adding a deductible back in. However, I left the 100% coverage. So when the deductible is reached, they'll still be only paying for copays. If there's a hospitalization, if there's a surgery, that would be still covered at 100% after deductible. Also, it's still a PPO plan, so you'll have that first dollar coverage the first time you go to the doctor, $20 for your office visit, $50 for specialty. I tried to leave them very similar to what they are now. Same emergency room, same urgent care. I just added in that PCP and specialist copay.
What does the term coins mean? It says $500
Oh,
copay.
co-insurance. Yeah,
Oh,
so, yep.
okay.
No, I get that, that's,
Co-insurance.
I like coins though. I'm gonna call it that now.
Spelled COINS.
Yeah, they should add like a period, so you can tell it's an abbreviation.
Okay.
Yep, exactly.
And then what's the RX deductible tiers? Is it certain drugs or is it like name brand?
So
Or
it's
is it
just,
generic?
yep, the tiering is generic, preferred brand, non-preferred brand, specialty. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So the first one's generic.
Yep, generic, preferred brands, non-preferred brands, and then specialty. And that's the same that it is right now. Now, going from one pharmacy benefit manager to another, of course, there will be disruption. So we could get a full disruption, which is what we do when we move, so that we understand which members would have to make changes to their medications, if they would be going from one tier to another tier. The one thing that I will say, based on the fact that I know that our team has negotiated these contracts, the overall cost will be lower. So there will be some disruption that's negative. I think that people will find there will be more positive disruption and lower overall costs to employees and to the plan. They're on co-pays, so it doesn't make as much of a difference to the employee. Most of the savings will be going to the plan once those deductibles are reached.
What would the copay be on services like x-rays, scans, ultrasounds?
So on a self-funded plan, you would make that choice. You could set those at what you wanted. You can have them included in the visit. Let's say it's a PCP visit. You can choose to have those included under the PCP visit. You can have x-rays and labs go straight to deductible. You can make those choices when you set up the plan.
How much difference does that make on the plan cost?
I mean, if you're going straight to co-insurance, then of course the employee is going to be covering more of the cost than the plan. If you set up a copay and say, it's $50 to have an x-ray, then the employee would be seeing most of the savings there, and the plan would have a higher increase to that. So it's totally dependent on how you set it up.
So is it set up at all now?
So no, we just quoted out the basic plan designs. When we get into setting up the plan with BHB, then we would go in and really, it's a several hour meeting, and they go through line by line by line, and you set everything up. We would know how it was covered under Surest when we go into that meeting, so they can say, we'll give them the whole plan design, and they would say, okay, this is how it currently is. You want to leave it the same? This is our recommendation. How do you want to make a change? So we would know, what kind of disruption we would be seeing in those instances as well.
Won't that be a little difficult, considering that with the Surest plan, it's been, you may have, an MRI, but depending on where you go, your cost is going to be different because of the, that facility.
Yep.
So
Now, right now, I believe we were just saying that it's all included. So when you do your, let's say, primary care physician, let's say your physician was one of the $100 copay physicians, you're paying $100 no matter what services you get done in that office.
That's the problem with the standard copay. It doesn't incentivize them to go find a better price on these services.
That, I will,
It's $50,
yeah.
no matter where you go, it's $50. And they're not gonna care how much the county has to pick up, or the taxpayer has to pick up.
Yeah, and the way that I tiered the copays, those more expensive things like emergency room, potentially a specialist, you set those copays at a higher amount. So you're driving utilization to primary care, to urgent care outside rather than ER, et cetera. So those are really the ways that you can drive utilization on a plan that isn't like the Surest, where it's a whole range.
Let's turn to what it looks like all in as far as percentage-wise, what the employee pays and what the county pays.
Yeah, so,
What's the all-in? Give me the bottom line. What did we pay last year? What was the percentages? What are you proposing this year? What's the percentages gonna look like?
We haven't gone
Well,
through,
we don't
we haven't gone
have
through all
that
the proposals
breakdown
yet,
yet.
do we?
We need that breakdown.
So, but we haven't decided, so the page 3 is the all-in
yep.
in total, but
Yeah, so-
breakdown per category doesn't happen until you guys decide, are you
Yep.
leaving copay, right? Or are you leaving what the employees pay the same? Are you changing how much % they're gonna pay? That's not.
So we
done until
bring
later.
you our best all-in plan costs, and then from that point, you can set up your contributions, your employee contributions, however you want. We will provide the employee contribution modeling like we have in the past, where you can really plug and play with it to see.
That's what we'd like.
Yeah, yeah, so
Fast and
we just need to make a decision on the contract, and then we can get you all of that information to make those choices.
We still have other proposals, right? We have.
Yeah,
what's the-
absolutely.
we have the
So I
RGA
showed
Life
you-
and Immutable.
Yep, so I showed you the most competitive proposal, that would be our recommendation. We have additional options. The second, or page 4 is PHP again as your admin with another stop-loss carrier that was less competitive. They had lasers on one claimant for $350,000. They also have a run-in limit, which means they're only taking a certain amount of risk from your retroactive claims costs. So that is something we try to avoid, any type of run-in limit, because it's just putting more risk on the plan. So this one is something we wanted to show you, that we proposed, but it's not a recommended option. It's not as strong as the previous proposal. If you flip to the next page, page 5, if you tell me we can't stand PHP, we will not go there, then we have options to look at Anthem as the administrator with some additional stop-loss carriers. So that page 5 has Anthem with their most competitive stop-loss carrier, which is 180, or Bridge City Insurance is what they write on. But if you look down to the very bottom, the total fixed and expected costs, you're looking at a pretty significant increase from the PHP option. Still lower than United Healthcare Surest though, still lower than the renewal. So that renewal is on each page. Then you can see Anthem with another one of our carriers, Berkshire Hathaway, which is 31 to 34% over current, which is higher than the renewal. And then that next page is Anthem with Sun Life as the stop-loss carrier, 40% over current, so not competitive. So for cost sakes, our recommendations would be PHP Companion Life. And then we would, of course, work through our employee contributions, our plan design, and all of those options. Thoughts?
Is there anybody else out there besides PHP and Anthem to compare rates to that
Yeah.
are compatible or
So-
comparable, I guess, not compatible?
So United
comparable?
Healthcare, Anthem, and then our local PHP are going to be the most competitive TPAs or administrators in this area. Of course, there are others. You have the Cignas, you have other networks. They're not as strong in Northeast Indiana, and they're not able to control costs like those local or national vendors that have strong contracts in this area. So yeah, we could throw 20 TPAs at you, but we just picked our
Declined it.
top
Some of them
3.
declined on the page. On page 2 talks about the ones that didn't want to quote it, correct?
Perfect.
Yep, so there's some stop-loss carriers.
So they did reach out to some, and
Okay,
and it
perfect.
was denied. They did, because of
Yep.
uncompetitive or whatever they wanted to say on page 2.
Okay, perfect. Yes, thank you. Okay, yep, that was my question. Thank you for pointing that out.
Well, even more,
Yeah.
so on that top section, the admin part, so basically that includes networks. So Anthem has their own network. You've been with Anthem, it's not, they're not the deepest discounts up here, even though they might tell you they are, they're not the deepest discounts. United Healthcare, the Surest uses the United Healthcare network. So United Network probably is not gonna quote against themselves. When you move to the Surest, United Healthcare is not gonna quote you for a year. So that's a moot point. Cigna, Aetna, they're national networks, they're not as competitive here. When you use another third-party administrator or another TPA, they use Encore Combined, Sagamore. None of those networks are as deep a discounts as PHP's, because PHP takes into consideration the 3 hospital systems that you're utilizing up here. So they are more than likely deeper discounts than you're gonna get with all of those other statewide, regional networks. The regional network that's probably the deepest in your area is PHP. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It
And,
does.
and on the network side, the only way we could drive cost savings down even further with Surest, PHP, Anthem is to go to that narrow network where we say we're gonna look at one hospital system and exclude others. And I know it was a concern to keep the network open, so that's what we looked at. What are your general thoughts on making that change? And I know, you know, Susan, we discussed, we can't take 40% increases every year. It's not feasible. So we're trying to bring some different options to the table.
Is there a lag in the cost of premiums by switching insurance companies? I recall like when they switched to Surest, there was like, you gain a little bit by switching because there's a lag? Or
So when you switched.
how's that work with?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when you switched to Surest, you were fully insured. So they were taking all of the claims. So when you started that new plan, they were paying all of your run out claims, which is what it's called, and that's where that lag came. So you're already self-funded, so you're still paying those claims from the past now, so that lag is gone. Correct, yeah. So we'll be paying run out from Surest, and then our current.
We're technically paying the run out already on it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. So we would most likely have Surest manage those run-out claims. So you'd be paying them for, 6 months, which will start strong and then taper off. And then most of your claims payments will be going through PHP.
But it's not an increased cost.
Nope, it's
Switching
no
companies,
different.
that'll pop up
Just
later.
now you're self-funded, you're just running consistent.
That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Good question.
Up until about 4 years ago, we had Physicians Health Plan, PHP, and that was when we were fully insured. Great customer service. They were wonderful to work with. They're internal people. So it was a really good company with whom to work. And they're right down the road, right off of I-69, so that if we needed anything, they would run up here.
Yeah, they are customer service wise. I think that your employees would see quite a step up. I've heard, that consistently, the PHP customer service, very, very good. And as Dottie said, they're local, they come to meetings, they have representatives that like to go out and, bring materials, things like that. So I think that you would see an increase in support on that side as well, yes.
That's been my experience too, working with PHP. Yes. We played the game for a couple years, but going back and forth between some different ones, but we ended up, we're just gonna stay with PHP. So we have found them to be a pretty good company.
Strong group to work with, for sure.
I would agree.
On Anthem Bridge City on page 5.
Yeah.
Their fixed cost is dramatically cheaper than everybody else's at $558,000.
Yeah, so they have those admin credits, and they offered an increased admin credit, from even what you have, I believe, with Surest. Let me look back at it.
For their first year.
So they're.
I said for their first year.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was that, Dottie?
Yes, for their first year. What happens with Anthem historically is, oh yeah, let's come in next year, okay, for renewal.
They're giving us credits this year to decrease the price. Basically, then next year the credits will not be there. Is that what you're saying? I'm sorry,
I
I'm
would
talking to
say-
Amy when you guys were talking.
On the fully insured side, Dottie, I would say you're dead on. They'll buy the business. And that's not unique to Anthem. Fully insured carriers, they'll buy your business and try to retain it. On the admin side, it's not as much like that because they really are truly just administering the claims. On the stop loss side, potentially they could buy business, but they were not competitive. Anthem was not competitive on their own stop loss. So we were quoting third-party carve-outs for Anthem. Yeah, but I absolutely see what you're saying. On the admin side, it looks like a nice decrease, almost $10,000. But you also would be with Carillon, which is their pharmacy benefit manager. We do have a contract negotiated with Carillon as well, that is for Apex clients. So it is a strong contract.
A couple more little sidebar comments. So I know when Lauren had conversations with Anthem, Anthem said, oh, we have deeper discounts than PHP. Okay, than you would have with PHP. Well, if you have deeper discounts, it should show up in your stop loss contract, in your claims, what they predict the claims to be in your stop loss, for stop loss, because it's Anthem stop loss. Well, deeper discounts didn't show up there, right? So with PHP and one of their preferred stop loss carriers, it shows a lower rate for claims. So I would have to say that if Anthem thought it was better rates, they would have a better stop loss contract and lower claims factors.
Yeah, because like every other number's okay, except for their bottom fixed and expected are 600,000 more than what PHP would be, but that was just an anomaly I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
Why that was
So,
$106,000 cheaper
yeah.
there, but overall they're more expensive estimated.
One more thing, I got two more comments. One I want to say, one I maybe shouldn't, but I will. But the one thing I will say about the pharmacy and the credits. So what happens with these PBMs or pharmacy benefit managers that reprice and have the contracts for the pharmacy, they all build in rebates that can come back to you. And so we look for, or we negotiate 100% pass-through rebates so that we're not getting any, the TPA's not getting any, and no one else is getting any of the rebates that come back to you. So because those rebates are quarterly, right? They're in arrears by about 6 months, and then they're quarterly. The carriers, like the Surest or United Healthcare, said, we will give you rebate credits off of your admin instead of actually giving you the rebate. So I'm curious as to what Susan says you're getting back in additional rebates, but if you are, that's a good thing too. Mm-hmm. So in lieu of rebates, they give you an admin credit. Well, those credits, since they're being generous and giving that to you immediately and every month in a credit, the rebates are generally better than the credits that they will give you because of the convenience of giving you that credit ahead of time. So you're going to win money-wise with the actual rebates. Secondly, what Anthem, I just found out what Anthem is starting to do. They have a true-up, so they'll give you, in this case, a $46.46 PEPM credit, pharmacy credit. At the end of the year, it takes a couple months, but at the end of the year, they will give you a true-up so that if you actually should have gotten a better rebate, they'll give you that money sometime next year. So that's a step in the right direction. But
Absolutely.
Your two things, and this is what I shouldn't say, but two things. Your pharmacy claims are high. So we think that putting the best pharmacy contract in is going to help cut your claims costs or have a better effect on your claims costs than anything else. And we implicitly trust our Innovative RX team, who they do this nationwide. They do it for other brokers. And for those of you watching on TV, the other thing our Innovative RX team is doing, they're currently in the process of doing, they are putting together a PBM or a pharmacy contract for the Association of Indiana Counties that doesn't even, we don't have to be the broker of. So they are negotiating a contract with the AIC based on our 21 counties book of business that'll have deeper discounts for AIC members that are not even Apex clients. The last thing I'll say that I shouldn't say is I know that you, William, I know that you want to have employees have skin in the game and want them to make educated decisions based on what it's going to cost them. But I would say through this program that allows for that but doesn't mandate it, it hasn't really worked, and people are still going to where they want to go anyway. And that's why these claims costs keep going up. So, and I think, as Lauren said, there are things we can do to mitigate those costs by plan design, which we will do, you will do. I don't think people were taking full advantage of that, and they were just going wherever they want, and the discounts wherever they wanted weren't as good as they could have been or should have been. And while I think members may have saved money with the way that plan was set up, I don't think that the county was.
No, very clearly it wasn't.
That I shouldn't have said, but that's my opinion, and that's just what I think has happened. And I think it was worth a try.
Absolutely.
And we wouldn't have even tried it had you not written all that down on a piece of paper, and we seeked, that's a word, out that model. And
Yeah.
and I would say, the other thing I do know, United Healthcare, this was the first group that went to that model in Indiana, and it's probably been the least successful because people are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, at least not to the degree they should. And with that, I yield my.
He steps down.
I do have a question.
Yeah, please.
So on page 9, we're looking at the prime PBM. What is the ongoing care cost of $2.32? What's these extra costs in there? Like the PPO network access fee?
Yeah, so
What
those,
is that?
yep, so these are just additional costs. Rather than saying your admin fee is $55.10 composite, they're breaking it down. All of these items are in those fees for Surest and Anthem. They just didn't break it down individually. So the PPO network access fee, that's access to the PHP Freedom Network, so the network that negotiates all the costs of claims. COBRA fee, that is $275, again, things that are in the other composite fee. Condition care, that is your case management, them getting involved with those high-risk claimants, people who have ongoing conditions, and doing those condition care type customer service aspects. Again, the other TPAs all do it, it's just rolled up into that one fee.
If you add them all together, it's $51.82.
Yes,
So it's still cheaper than the other Surest stuff.
correct.
Okay. Now, you said they had the rebates. Who's in charge of doing those?
The Prime
Susan have to
Therapeutics.
send it out?
Sorry, what was that?
So who does it?
Prime Therapeutics, the pharmacy benefit manager at the
Well,
bottom.
they'll send it out and then they just give us the money
Yes.
that they get. Okay.
Yep.
I didn't know if it's something that we had to do or Susan had to do, I should say.
No. Nope.
Yes,
They-
okay. I wanted to make sure that see who is the one that has to do
Which
with
is
the
why
rebate.
they're so high,
Absolutely.
right? Which is why their cost is so high
Who?
for the rebate stuff.
Yeah, because
Yes.
because here they're giving us a credit for it.
Right.
And then like, hey, we'll give you some money now, but we're gonna take the extra savings on our end.
Yeah, so the way that our contracts are structured with pharmacy benefit managers, they get a per claim amount that goes straight to the pharmacy benefit manager, rather than us playing the game of they're charging the pharmacy X, they're getting X. We don't know, there's no insight into it. We negotiate on a per claim basis fee to the pharmacy benefit manager. So they're truly administering the pharmacy claims.
We have that now, we're just not getting back as much as what we could be.
Correct, because we have
Because they're-
stronger.
They only give us
rebate
$50 back.
Contracts.
They're keeping this red line. They're keeping that for themselves and not sending it to us. Which is why it appears that the PHP one is so much higher.
Right, but in
Yeah, they're
end game will not be, yes.
giving us $50, but they're keeping, it's $100.
Exactly. But give me all my money. That's what I want. Give it all to me, please. Not just what you think I should get. Exactly.
Now, if we decide to go with one of these companies, then we go through, the next stage would be deductibles,
Implementation.
copay, all that. That's
design.
another conversation for another
Yep,
day.
exactly. Yep,
Okay, so this is just more of choosing the overall
contract.
plan, and then we go through deductibles, copay,
that's it.
and all that stuff.
And then the other thing is we've got to come up with premiums or premium equivalents and contribution strategies. And I'm just thinking off the top of my head again, but right now you fund to that max claims amount, and there may be a situation where you don't have to fund to that max claims amount for your premium equivalents. You may be able to fund to some number lower than that, But what, we have to see, we got to look, ask our actuarial team.
And they can usually turn those around. Once we have the contract decided, they can turn those around in a couple of days. Well, I guess I should say that I'll beg them and then they'll turn around a couple.
And then we have to keep in mind that those that did the
Health fair.
health stuff will all be getting $50 off their.
Right, and that's when we can make those choices.
How many people did that? I know you'd have the numbers. You knew I was gonna ask you. How many people went into it, like, overall? Because it's past the date now, isn't it? Okay, into this, yeah. At the-
So
Thank you.
knowing that 95, if you can send me the breakdown on tier, then our team can calculate that into the, at least, you know, an educated guess, because they do still have more time. We can calculate that into the premium equivalence and the contribution strategy.
My guess would be, so you're saying that the family and employee children or employee spouse are the least likely to participate at this point in time?
As of right now, there hasn't been a lot of spouses that also sent in their forms.
Okay.
And if you have a spouse on the health plan, you both have to send in the forms to get the discount.
Okay.
Is it double or is it still more?
It's just the same
okay,
amount,
okay.
but you both have to participate.
Got it.
So
Like my
it's just
wife,
$50.
my wife and I
no
had to
matter
do it, so I would get the credit.
The one credit,
I couldn't
okay.
just do it
Got it.
myself. It had to be both to get the credit on mine.
Perfect.
And which group of employees are the, like, if you break it down to employee, family, employee, child, which group of those are we seeing the highest claims from?
This, on the, like, employee versus spouse side, do you mean? Let me pull up the high claimant report. Give us a pretty good indication. So our top 3 claimants are all spouses. So those are, you know, 172,000, 164, 136,000, which is pretty typical that we see spouses as our highest claimants.
That was why last year we decided to increase the premium for employee and spouse, because we are seeing more claims regarding the spouses.
But the other thing that was done was you no longer would cover dental and vision for us. If we want it, we have to pay for it all out of our own. And it used to be that that was part of our plan, that we got some kind of
Okay.
benefit for having to do dental and.
So that's no longer covered, dental and vision is
It's
no longer.
voluntary.
It's voluntary.
It's voluntary, yeah.
It's voluntary,
Like if
but not covered by the county.
Right.
he doesn't pay any money into it.
We have plans, but they are paid entirely by
Right.
the employee's premium.
Yeah, that's similar to what we do too, yeah.
Speaking of which, would you like to take a look at our ancillary marketing? All right, page 11. We did take this out to market this year for multiple reasons. First, that our rate guarantees were coming off, so we had renewals from the standard. We also are having some service issues, some billing issues. If steel is implemented, of course, that will help us a lot. Going to self-billing, another thing that will help us a lot. However, if we want to make a move on the service side, we have some options to look at. Page 12 is your dental. The renewal is a 22% renewal. As you stated, this is a purely voluntary product, so that is going to be passed along to employees. So that is what we're looking at on the dental side. We have a couple of options. We actually have 2 pages of dental benefits. I'll just tell you up front, Lincoln was the most competitive as a ancillary package. So we're gonna primarily focus on Lincoln as an alternative, but obviously we'll glance through everything else as well. On the dental side, they came out at a -5, so a little bit of a discount for your savings for your employees. They also have a 2-year rate guarantee, which on dental right now is surprising. That's a nice offer. The dental trend is pretty significant at this moment. So I have not been seeing a lot of 2-year rate guarantees, even on new proposals. So it's strong. You would have that locked in for 2 years. United Healthcare was a -6. So a little bit more savings, but you know, we're talking even on a family plan, less than $1. So not much different.
But only a 1-year guaranteed.
And only a 1-year guarantee, yep.
And of course, we have most of our dentists in the area don't really care about dental insurance.
Nope.
They're not, I mean,
Absolutely right.
it runs the whole gamut. Some of the dentists around here will go ahead and file your claim with the insurance company, but then whatever reimbursement that they get, if it doesn't cover what they charged, the employer, the member, will be charged for that difference.
Yep. So because dental networks in this area are so weak, we quote the same in and out of network benefit. So you're still getting the percentage of coverage, same in and out of network, but as Dottie, as you just said, you're out of network, they're not held to any rate that they must adhere to. So there can be balance bills. But if we didn't cover out of network, it'd be really hard for people to find dentists in this area. Yep, good point, Dottie. The next page, we have Anthem, Guardian, and MetLife respectively, all 1-year guarantees, all increases from your current. Looking at vision, the standard is proposing right at about a 10% increase. Vision premiums are very low, so a 10% increase is even insignificant. You know, it's about $1.50 for a family per month difference. Lincoln came in at 8% over current, so an increase, but a little bit less than your renewal. United Healthcare was under current. Again, just because those premiums are so low, it's not gonna be a huge savings. When somebody saves 25 cents, they're not gonna throw a party on the dental side.
But the United Healthcare has a 3-year locked-in guarantee, right?
Yep, and Lincoln offered a 2.
Lincoln has, oh, yeah, it's a 2.
Yep. Also quoted Anthem, Guardian, Met. So you can see those are all increases as well. Now they will put guarantees on vision more easily again, just because of the premium being much lower, a lot less risk to the company. So you can see that the other carriers quoted some guarantees as well. Now, something that we can do, if let's say we really like Lincoln, you know, we can say DeKalb likes Lincoln, we want to go in that direction. However, XYZ is offering us a 4-year guarantee. You know, there's some negotiations to be had on that side, and we're happy to do that. And we will do that. Right. Basic life, we have our current with the standard and renewal. They're offering no change on the renewal, so flat. This is a county paid line of coverage, so this is directly impacting you guys. Lincoln is offering an 8% decrease from current, as well as a 3-year rate guarantee. So $465 in savings. It's
Per employee or just total?
that's total.
And a 3-year guarantee.
That's right. You've got it. Voluntary life, Lincoln is proposing a 3-year rate guarantee. They matched your current rates. And something that is nice when you do go to a new carrier, your employees will get another shot at the guaranteed issue amount. So they can jump in at guaranteed issue. Anyone from the county who wants to get in on those amounts has another chance at that. Otherwise, if you have missed your initial enrollment as a new hire, or when we put the standard in, they all had access to a new guaranteed issue, they have to fill out an evidence of insurability form.
Can you say that again? So it would be offered,
So if we move to Lincoln, all employees would have access to these guaranteed issue amounts. You can see that Lincoln is at, this is kind of confusing the way that it's listed out.
basically what happens when if you don't get into those rates or get onto the plan right when you new hire.
Yep.
And
you have to fill out medical
questions. Right.
Yep,
But if
so you can be
since you're
approved.
switching, then everybody could jump back in again if they wanted to.
Yes.
What does it mean not to exceed 5 times EE?
So your coverage can't go over 5 times of what the employee's salary is. So if your salary is, I make $10,000 a year, I can't have more than $50,000 in coverage. They're saying, you know, there's a cap on what you can cover for. Yep, the maximum would be the same, 500,000, over 70 is $50,000 max. And then your employee guaranteed issue is 250,000, so every employee could get in at that level if they want to, if we made that change. And the spouse guaranteed issue is 30,000, again, same as current. Also, same situation, you can't exceed 50% of the employee amount. That's a little bit different than current. Right now, you can go up to 100% of your employee amount. Again, something that we can try to negotiate if we like this, you know, this product and we want to make that change.
Do we actually have to offer voluntary life and voluntary accidental death and dismemberment?
I would highly recommend that having this benefit for your employee would be offered. The group rates are much lower than individual rates. Also, some of these employees may not be able to be eligible for voluntary or through life coverage if they go individually, where they would be covered under a group product. That is my official recommendation.
It says employee volunteer AD&D benefits. What is a must match volume life?
Where are you at, sorry?
First,
17. In that first.
in the blue down. Because the other ones were optional to match. What is a must match?
Yeah, so AD&D is very inexpensive. It's the accidental death and dismemberment. Under the standard, you could say, I want to only cover life and not the accidental death and dismemberment portion. They're saying it's all rolled in one.
You have to get it, it's all in one, okay.
And I'm not gonna say it's silly not to pick it up, but we're talking about pennies on a dollar for the AD&D portion.
It just, I was
It makes
seeing that, I
sense
was just
to
looking at
have
the
it all.
differences between.
Yep, absolutely. No, that's a great question.
Generally, AD&D is less than $1.
Oh, yeah, cheap.
Right, so it's
Yep,
very
very
cheap.
cheap.
So it's easy to just match
It's a
that.
lot harder administratively to say, okay, my employee
Correct.
wants this much life, but not,
Very
you know, AD&D, yeah.
Dottie, is the county picking up the cost right now for the voluntary? I'm assuming not. The employees get to pick if they want it or not.
Yep.
Your reasoning behind not wanting to offer it is?
There is basic life coverage.
Right,
Yeah, okay,
basic, yep,
yep.
they get basic, they
Yep.
can do voluntary. You would prefer not to offer it?
Employees, the county purchases a $10,000 life insurance policy for most of our employees. The sheriff's office gets a $20,000 life insurance policy, accidental death and dismemberment. That plan flows very nicely because it is simply how many employees do you have, so who's covered. Now, when it comes to voluntary life and we end up, HR becomes the insurance representatives, and we want to get out of the insurance industry.
There's been some significant billing issues with the standard, which is why we are looking at different carriers, and a lot of that is falling on the voluntary life coverage. But we also have a plan in place to have that all on a Ben admin system and take that burden off of the HR team. So we are working through fixing that problem for Dottie and Morgan.
It still is irritating, but, and I will say that a former county commissioner said something about we're being very paternalistic about offering this, but that was his opinion. Yeah, our idea is that we do not want to be in the insurance industry. If we have that benefit manager deal, they would take over all of those hassles and the headaches we are hoping from this. We do not want to be the ones that are presenting this information to our employees, either at open enrollment or at new hire. They are, I will say, nobody really likes to talk about life insurance because what that means is death. Because you're banking on the fact that, I'm going to live until I die, and then all this money is going to come to the people who love me. And so, but nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to read the information. And there are just so many other things that human resources needs to do instead of selling insurance. And so that's why this is an area that is really irritating to me. And if we can get it off of our plate and onto Steele's plate, yay. And so I would say that we would offer it. And Lincoln is hopefully, my comments would be service and a representative to, and just because it's Lincoln, we think Lincoln is local, but Lincoln isn't really necessarily local anymore. But I don't know about these guys, about this area. So if there would be a representative to come in, much like our AFLAC or our Boston Mutual reps who actually come in, they do all the paperwork, they do the sales thing, they keep HR out. All that they do is they present us with a piece of paper that this is when you should start the deductions, and this is how much the deductions are. Boom, goes through HR, goes to payroll. And then we're out of the business.
Quick question. Do we have a portal or anything like that where it's all paperwork? Dear God.
So that's what we're putting in a.
But we're working on that.
I really want Steele Benefits to come. I pushed and I wanted them to come to do this open enrollment, but HR didn't want them this fast because it was a quick turnaround. I wanted them here right now, and they were willing to try it, but then everybody decided that, I don't know. They decided it wasn't gonna work. So I will be coming back as soon as this is done with a proposal because I want to bring them on. They have all online everything. None of us would have to fill out a piece of paper.
Yes.
We'd be able to track it on who has done what they need to do, who hasn't. And
We'll track the deductibles.
they would get they would be our contact person as an employee for questions, everything.
So Bill, thank you for bringing that up. We built in tech credits into this proposal to help offset and pay for that service as well. So that is another reason to have more voluntary coverages because then we have more tech credits to help offset the steel costs. Yes. So that we had that all in mind when we went out to market. So thank you. Okay. Yep, 3-year rate guarantee with Lincoln on the voluntary life side. Those longer rate guarantees, the less you have to mess with it, the less people mess with it, much easier.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Next page, ASO short-term disability. So this is just that administrative fee, and they matched it. Page 18, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
We just got kind of sidetracked. I just
You're
wanted to make
good.
sure everybody was catching
No,
up there.
that's a great idea to know what page you're on.
Yeah, that's helpful.
And a 3-year rate guarantee on that admin as well. So no change from current, other than a nice new guarantee. Then looking at the long-term disability benefit, Lincoln has offered a 3-year rate guarantee as well as a -10. So that's, again, a smaller savings, but a savings from current and a new 3-year rate guarantee.
It says benefit max is 2,900 difference. What is it?
So that is the same as current, is the benefit maximum. Now, I'm not sure why it's listed higher on the standard in Lincoln with it being ASO.
And it has 5,000, then Lincoln's proposed 2 has 2,167, then proposed 3 is 5.
Oh, this isn't ASO, this is.
Then it's on page 19, make sure we're on the same.
Yeah, so this is Dottie, correct me if I'm wrong, this is employer paid only for the sheriff's department. Yep, so this is, yeah, so this is,
Only the sheriff's office has county-paid long-term disability.
yeah,
Yes.
so,
And I'm saying,
It's exactly the same. Yep.
yeah, so it's gonna cost, as an employer, it's going, yeah, if that benefit max, if 60% of your salary is higher than 2167, which is what you're doing right now, then you'll have more costs coming to the county because you're covering more volume. So if that person does go out on long-term disability, then they can, if their salary is much higher, which I don't even know how many people that would impact, we could do, if you're interested in increasing the maximum, we could do an impact report to see how many sheriff's department members, you know, are over that 2167.
But we have never had anyone on long-term disability.
Yeah. But if you have higher paid individuals within the county who wanted to pick that up on a voluntary basis, they could potentially have more coverage.
so right now we have 2167 is what we
Yes, if
currently
you're,
have.
yep,
Okay.
they
That's
cover
what-
60% of your monthly earnings up to that maximum.
Okay.
Yep.
That's what I was curious about.
Yeah, no,
We're
that is
only-
a good question, and it's listed on here, so I would have asked it too. So Lincoln matched, so you wouldn't have any increase in cost, you would have a decrease in cost, actually.
That's what we have now, yep.
Yep, exactly. Okay, you'd have to make $100,000 for it to be relevant.
Yeah, raising the benefit from 2,167 to 5,000. If the benefit is $5,000, that is 60% of someone that is making $100,000.
Yep. 3-year rate guarantee, again, on long-term with Lincoln. Lincoln also proposed a $5,000 maximum, so if that is of interest, you have an option. Again, we could run an impact report if you wanted to increase that LTD payout. Again, Dottie, I know that you said it hasn't been relevant in the past, but we like to bring options to the table, so we had a couple of different quotes for higher. So the first page was your sheriff's department employer paid. The second page is your voluntary employee paid rates.
Thank you.
And I think we have about 25 employees who are enrolled voluntarily in the long-term disability.
So we would pull that before, if we made a change, we'd pull that census information and just try to roll those individuals right over into this coverage without them having to take action. We could do that across the board with all your coverages. Okay. We also quoted out accident, critical illness, and hospital indemnity with all of these carriers as well. If we did choose to consolidate to one carrier, again, because the tech credits are built into these products, that would each one that you added and replaced other additional coverages with would give you more tech credits to help you pay for more of steel. So we have the rates in here.
I assume you guys, Steel works with Lincoln.
Yes. Yes, they do.
I didn't think they would put,
Yeah.
because they know how strongly I want steel in here.
Yep. You can see, you know, if you flip through, you can see the rates, the standard proposed and plans, Lincoln, all pretty standard voluntary rates and coverages. But if you have any questions about these specific products, please let me know. I know we've discussed in the past. Would you like me to walk through it?
Would we have to implement this voluntary accident insurance benefit during open enrollment, or could we wait until we get steel in place?
You could absolutely do that.
So this voluntary accident,
Yeah.
I love you guys, however, I do not want to be.
And it could be another project for another year. Next year, we're gonna replace all of our voluntary, those VWB coverages, put one in place, really take advantage of the tech credits and help offset steel.
So
Or off-cycle.
This volunteer accident, we don't have that currently.
Correct, you do not have any of those. Okay, let me back up. You do have those. There are several different carriers in place. They're hodgepodge from past years, Aflac, Boston Mutual, tell me if I'm missing, Trustmark. And these have just been, yeah.
Let me think out loud here and go back to your voluntary life thing. What if, I don't even know if we could do this. What if we went back to Lincoln and said, because now the objection is you don't want to enroll all these people on all these lines, right? And you don't want to do it until we have steel in place. What if, once steel is in place, we have a start date for
For
a
the new
different
GI.
start date for those lines?
Oh, just the voluntary lines, you mean, so that they could take advantage of the GI? Or we could ask them if they'll do a second GI once we have steel in place, like a second,
Open enrollment
yeah,
period.
second open enrollment.
Where they get to help with
So,
that?
yeah, yes. We will work through that. I don't think it'll be an issue, honestly. I think that they'll be fine with that. We let them know the plan.
Yeah, the plan, because
It's
then
gonna
we could-
mean more premium dollars for them, so.
Right, because if the commissioners decide Lincoln is the dental and vision,
Yeah,
there's a carrot.
exactly. Let's see if this page is
Good
in
thinking, Dottie.
here. The very last page in the presentation shows all of the ancillary lines that are paid for by DeKalb, okay? So not your voluntary lines, your lines that are paid for by DeKalb County. You can see all in what each carrier will provide, which savings will be provided. So when we're looking at your employer-paid lines with the standard, your renewal is gonna bring you up about $30,000. If you do make a move to Lincoln, it's a minus for $6,000 in savings. And I lied because the voluntary coverages are on this page. So this is everybody's coverage. I thought she showed us one. Employer paid. But it shows you the breakdown in savings for each line. So dental's voluntary, vision's voluntary, life, you're gonna get that savings. LTD, short term. With the issues that we've been having with the standard, knowing that their renewal was not as strong as the Lincoln proposal, do we want to propose making the move to Lincoln with the caveat that we're going to do some additional negotiations to get them into an even better spot with rate guarantees and potentially a second open enrollment period for that guaranteed issue amounts?
What is this overall analyzed cost summary? What is this 166,812? What number does that represent?
So this is your total premium for the year. And some of those are voluntary where your employees are paying, like for
say you
dental,
can't-
for example.
You can't look at that, that's not gonna compare anything.
Okay, that's why I was confused. I was trying to,
Because-
like, yeah, I was trying to compare it to something.
I know.
We don't pay for all of that.
Right.
Okay.
So, but, I mean, it does represent savings that will be shared between employees, employer. Most is going to the employees, honestly, just because of the fact that dental is the most expensive line and they're the ones paying for it. So that's gonna be money straight back into their pocket, particularly over the renewal, which is a pretty salty dental renewal.
However, it would be amazing if the county would go back to our dental and vision as part of our benefit package. I mean, county never paid for it 100% by any means, but it was part of our.
Portion of, or a portion.
Next step.
Next steps?
What's our next step?
Next step would be, on the ancillary side, we'll make the easier, quote, easier decision first. I would suggest a move to Lincoln, both for our decrease in rates, rate guarantees for several years, and the significant renewal from the standard. Our suggestion would be a move to Lincoln for the tech credits as well. For ancillary, yeah.
So move that we move to Lincoln with negotiations to come.
For the auxiliary cost. I'll second that.
A motion and second on the floor. Additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Motion carries. We switch to Lincoln.
Okay. Then the second decision is on the medical side. Our recommendation would be to move to PHP, page 3, proposed 1 or 2. Personally, I would take the fixed cost savings of proposed 2, because the all-in overall risk is not significantly different.
And what they're estimating is a 0.1% difference.
Exactly, yep.
So, but we know we can save
We know we'll save
$86,192,
Yeah. Exactly.
which is if we renewed it, so just for anybody that's watching, just so I understand.
Yes.
The renewal for what we had last year would have been $5,905,073.
Yes, the renewal was
So
a
it'd be a 28.3%.
Yep, the renewal was a
continue.
28.3% increase, which is 1.124 million over current. The proposed is 4.186 all in expected cost annualized, or 216,000 over current. So a swing of almost $900,000.
Just to clarify to anybody that's watching. 'cause I
Yes,
know a lot of
absolutely.
employees are gonna be watching
Now, I
this.
know they can't see this, yes.
Yeah. So,
Quite a significant savings when we go to look at employee contributions as
then-
well as for the county.
and once we decide on this, then we go to doing the deductibles
Yep.
and the co-pays and all that stuff. so that's
And
a
looking
whole
at
other
plan design modeling, premium equivalence, all the data.
Any comments or anything from you guys?
Motion?
I'll make the motion to accept proposal 2, PHP Comparison Life ISI with the 150,000 specific deductible.
Second.
A motion and second on the floor. Any additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
How
when
the
do
fun
you,
starts.
when do you plan to
Yeah.
come back to do the 19-hour?
So I will get the data turned around. We'll also start the implementation process. When is your next scheduled meeting?
Every 2 weeks.
Okay, so let me see if,
Is it possible
Works
to
for
do
data.
it sooner, having a meeting regarding, if they get the information back to us,
Yeah.
it helps because the month of June is basically open enrollment month. We have to schedule meetings with our employees to make sure that we can communicate all of these changes that we are implementing, and hopefully get everybody in so that they understand all the changes. But there's also the added, things have to be printed, and their printer, the PHP's printer, those guys have to have time to get that information to the printer, get it back to us, so that then we can schedule meetings. So the sooner the better.
yeah,
Please.
we will absolutely start implementation right away. So we can meet as soon as your team would like to meet on the data side. I would say within reason, probably at the 19th being the time that we need for our data team to turn around some of these deliverables.
I will not be, I'm going to Virginia from the 16th to the 19th. I will not be home.
The 19th, okay.
I will not be available on the 19th. if
Like, you're wanting to come back to a meeting for this?
We could do virtual, we could do an in-person meeting. The 26th, which is 2 weeks, is Memorial Day. I don't know if that, I would assume you aren't meeting. The 27th,
Is their next meeting?
scheduled meeting.
after Memorial?
Me?
Tuesday after Memorial Day? Is that
We
gonna work?
we already have a scheduled meeting
Yeah,
then,
the
so.
27th.
So are you thinking, Dottie, because we can start implementation right away, we'll be working through that, but you're thinking as far as setting plan design, that's what you want to get a jump on?
I just was,
Of course.
just a question on how, is this the earliest that you come in to give the commissioners this, like, hey, make this decision? Because it seems very late.
So our stop loss, yeah, is
What's that?
absolutely. The holdup for everyone is the data that we need to get the stop loss carriers to give us firm quotes. So when I say we got firm quotes at the end of last week, we got firm quotes at the end of last week, and that's the earliest that the stop loss carriers will lock in, because they don't want to take the additional risk. If we locked in previous, they're gonna put a huge load on the premiums, because of the unknown claims factors. So I completely understand what you're saying.
Yeah, that's very late.
Yeah, it is typical on the self-funded stop loss side of things.
Do you give, like, consistent updates throughout the year to the
Yep.
commissioners?
Yep.
Like a quarterly or something where you're coming in and giving a presentation? And
Yep, we have a
giving us
whole,
information?
we come in, we have 4 regularly scheduled, kind of like those big meetings. We have our annual clinical review, then we have our renewal strategy where we talk about what we want to go out and do for marketing, then our renewal meeting, then of course we have open enrollment, and then our recaps, and we're providing regular financials in between those times as well. Absolutely, yes.
That was my question,
And
actually, if we propose to a different.
actually, as Bill just said, maybe worse, because that bottlenecks, we get into a bottleneck with every other 1/1 renewal, and the carriers are even more backed up, getting firm quotes out even later, so.
That's why we set it for this time of year back in 2016 when I came on board, so that at least council would know what we're in for, at least for half the year.
I'll even back that up by saying Alexa reached out to you several times because we were having trouble getting claims data from UHC, which is not normal for us. So literally, we got this stuff in and I printed them
Friday
right
night.
at 5 o'clock Friday.
Yeah.
So this was and we were actually still waiting for a couple of quotes
Yes.
Monday morning that I don't think came in yet.
They.
Just to clarify, no matter what date we set, it's always gonna be this type of timeline.
Now, the one thing that we can do, you can look at ancillary anytime throughout the year. Yeah. This really came about because of some service issues and concerns that we're having on the service side more than anything else. But stop loss, correct, it is gonna come down to this point every year. Now, if we have an administrator who's controlling costs, a pharmacy benefit manager who's controlling pharmacy costs, then we're not gonna have to continue to look at PBMs and admin. So it'll just be that back end stop loss piece that we're looking at each year at this late. Does that help? Does that answer your question? Okay, good. Trust me, if we could get it 6 months earlier, we would be all over it.
Okay, what's the date?
We're open on our side, and we just need about a week to turn around the financial deliverables. After that, I'm open to your team's dates. I am open on the 27th, so that would not be a problem to come back that day. Also happier to come earlier.
I don't think we have it.
27th?
Well, it's either do the 27th or do it a little bit earlier if you wanted to. It's up to,
We can call a special meeting, it would just be you two, because Kellen won't be. If you do it the
or do a different day the
week
next week.
before. When are you gone?
Friday to Monday,
Oh, so you would be
just
back.
that weekend. Yeah, I'll be back. I won't be back that Monday because I come back from Virginia. I'm driving back, so that's a 10-hour drive.
I could do
So the 20th to the 23rd, you could.
Yeah, anytime, Tuesday on after that, I'm 20th to the 23rd,
the 21st, I would be fine. The 22nd, I would also be fine. I'm having surgery on the 23rd, so
22nd is that.
busy.
No, is that done? Okay.
Change board reconstruction.
Oh, yeah, that's right, we did a special meeting.
Yeah, so we can't do the 22nd.
We cannot do the 22nd.
So it'll be the 21st Wednesday, would be, Ada would wait till that following Monday, Tuesday. That's,
The 21st, the room is open. Nothing else scheduled, so.
I would say do that, because I think with all the conversations we're gonna have to just have just that on the agenda, probably.
Is 10 o'clock okay again?
Just be a one item.
One item agenda, because we have so much to talk about with deductibles, copay and everything.
I wouldn't be able to be there, but I don't know that you need me for legal questions on this.
Probably not.
Always have you on the
What's
phone.
the
if you need.
earliest that you could get here?
Date-wise? Oh, or
Time-wise.
time-wise? I mean, I can be here as early as you need.
I know, but you have kids.
10 o'clock is my normal earliest, but I also have a support system, in which case I could be here earlier.
10 o'clock's fine with me. Unless you guys want earlier, it's up to you guys.
I'll just throw
Right.
some
I
cereal.
would say I'm a 8:30 person, get it on the thing and go, but
And I'm happy to come anytime,
We'll shoot for 9.
not a worry. 9 o'clock?
8/21 at 9 a.m.
And we're going to be discussing plan design, employee contributions, and premium equivalents. Did I miss anything? Okay. If I have any of those deliverables in advance, I will share so that you can distribute, so we can have time to play with it. And
Okay.
great, thank you, guys. Yeah, thank you all. You guys had some seriously really great questions, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
There you go. Okay, we got about 4 items to clean up.
Yep.
So let's jump into the Dorset Consultant Agreement 2026 to 2028.
I had scanned everything in. Jeff Dossett is the
Dottie, you have the,
consulting firm that does our,
we do need those signed within the next 4 business days, so if you want to just get it done today, that's
hey,
probably
Lauren,
ideal.
Lauren, we are still meeting. Can you guys,
Yeah, sorry.
sorry. Jeff Dossett is who does our Title 4D work and finds the money to come back to the county that we can claim that we may not have claimed. And I included, the most recent one that he did was for 2023, and he has recovered over $47,000 that will be coming back to the county. So I would greatly appreciate if you would approve him for the next 3 years, and we usually lock in, if you look at this, we usually lock in at the,
$6,500 a year.
yeah, the second.
But this time it's 7, isn't it?
No, it's,
Oh, for 3 years, okay.
you
yeah, I
go,
see.
you either get the first one or the second one, and you can lock it in for 3 years.
So move, we accept the contract as presented for the 3-year contract.
I'll second.
A motion second on the floor. Comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks for coming.
Hey, Amy, we on for lunch?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so then, we had the 2 different elevator maintenance
Yeah.
agreements that I had scanned into. I don't know if anybody contacted to find out.
I talked to Larry.
Okay,
I'll talk to Larry.
He's all in favor of
The other one?
right, not Otis, but the
the executive,
executive. Yep.
okay?
Entertain a motion
I'll make the motion to accept executive,
At $350 per quarter.
$350 per quarter based on Larry's recommendation.
Second.
A motion second on the floor. Any additional comments? All those in,
We don't have a Dover elevator. That was the only one that was going to issue or something. They're not carrying parts anymore. I think we have an Otis, don't we?
We have Otis, yeah.
We have Otis.
Yeah.
Never mind then.
Otis.
I'm okay.
all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Space study.
sent everybody the proposal. Mr. Cruz had a correction for me. I made that and it has been done. So I would ask approval of the send a space study to the 4 companies that I mentioned.
I have some questions. Is that your motion? Sorry.
No, it was just, I'm asking.
Okay, so we are not including, in your proposal, you're not including the highway department, community corrections, and the community communications building, which I'm assuming is dispatch, correct?
Correct.
And what are the reasons for that?
They're new enough facilities. No reason to make changes.
Okay. I was on the understanding the space study was to look at everybody's buildings throughout the whole county, new or not, to see what's going on there and making plans. Now, the highway department, yes, it is brand new. It doesn't need to have any changes, but this study was to include everything that the county owns, including parcels of land that don't have any buildings on them, to have a document that if anybody wants to come and say, hey, what do we got going on for the county space-wise, it's all included in there, is what my wish would be for the project. So I would like to include the highway department, the community corrections, and the dispatch, because
You do one highway?
I do, because it is the overall, the study is to overall look at the space of the whole county. We might not do anything out there, it might not be changed out there, but it still have a study that includes everything. So if someone comes back on the study and looks at it, it doesn't have stuff that's missing off of it that is part of the county. And I would like to add on, have a list of all land parcels that are not, doesn't have a building on it, just to have a list of the parcels. So that way anybody wants to come back and look at the study, they can get an overall view of what the county owns and what they have going on land-wise and building-wise. And I know we're probably not going to do anything with the community corrections, we're probably not going to do anything with the highway department, but to still have it documented within the same study as everything else in there. That's just my personal feelings on it.
I can agree with the properties. We need to have a, and that's not going to involve much, obviously. It's where they're at, what the location is, what proximity
And how much,
to the rest of our facilities. I would think maybe though, the three facilities that are newer, that maybe that be separated out as a option. In other words, we get a bid on the main buildings that we have. But the 3 new facilities would be an option. In other words, they give us a bid on it, but it's separate.
Like an alternate.
Alternate, yeah, that's the word I was, they give us an alternate bid on the highway community corrections central dispatch. We can see what that number is and then go from there as far as what we would approve.
okay, I could agree with that.
With that,
Have that conversation later.
Okay, so Rick Ring is watching, and he just messaged, and he's saying that we don't know to the bare land, and that it should be courthouse, annex, health department, building only. Oh, he's just saying we have our own list of our bare land. We don't need to pay somebody to give us that list. Like, we would be able to come up with that. But he says courthouse, annex, and health department building. Is that what we had?
well, we can do that as a basis, and like you say, do the alternate on the other 3.
Yeah, I mean, my idea behind this was to have a comprehensive plan of all the buildings that we own. I understand that most of it's going to be used to figure out where we can move people, combine stuff and get that, but the overall document that I was looking for is everything that the county owns and has. Now, we can add in, if we have that list of all the bare land, that's fine, we can add it to that study ourselves as an addendum, but
I like the bare land concept, adding that
yeah,
in.
because, I mean, it's under different, when you go to like GSI and stuff like that, it's under different things. It gets a little confusing to figure out exactly where all that, could we have 1/4 acres here that's been taken back because of the railroad gave it up and now we own it now and all that stuff. So it'd be nice to have one document that we can add that part to, not a big deal, that we can just when you go to the document, you can look at it, and it tells you everything you need to know about the whole county. I understand that it's going to be used mostly for when the next step is to figure out what we're going to do with combining locations and all that stuff, but I think having the overall everything is also important. Because I know the coroner would like to have a cooler put in to store the bodies, lack of a better way of saying it, that, yeah, it would make sense to be at the jail, but it would be at dispatch. I mean, they got some land out there, you could put it out there, it's a gated community, it's protected. There's other things like that, so excluding them off of it is not, in my opinion, I think we should include everything, but I can go with we can have that conversation to see what the cost difference would be on the amendment.
Okay,
Then you had 6 hard copies we delivered for the auditor. I was kind of curious. Submissions must be made in 6 hard copies.
That's from the other counties that I looked at. They're, for this proposal, all 6 had 6 hard copies. Presumed it was for the 3 commissioners, the lawyer,
Yeah.
and I don't know who the 6th one.
Okay, that's what the 6th one was going to be for.
I don't know, but
Okay.
I was making that assumption that that was at least those 5. I don't know what the 6th, it didn't specify, but in the 6 proposals I did look at, all 6 had 6. I didn't ask if that was actually an ordinance or a state law, but
5 makes sense to me, so I didn't know if there was a 6th person that we needed to have it for, if there was a reason it was 6.
Well, maybe one set would be for the council.
Could be. I was just kind of curious. It wasn't anything particular.
I have no idea.
I was just kind of
all
curious.
listed 6. Would you have a list of all the properties that the county owns? Okay.
I mean, we just have to search it with,
And I just want to make sure that's attached to this document, so that way when someone pulls out this document, it's an overview of everything that the county owns, all the space that it has, all the land that it has. Because
you aren't wanting that attached before that goes out, are you?
no, but just part of the overall thing, so.
You don't want it attached to the proposal? Needs to be.
All the land parcels? That's fine, I mean, you want to, that's up to you guys. I just want to make sure it's at the end of the,
So do you, it says I put down land parcels included. So I could say, if you want to know what the land parcels are, put that under the part where I talked about the auditor for the blueprints and plans for each building.
that's fine.
I could include, is that acceptable if I did put it there? Without including the land, so that if they want to know the land, they go see the auditor? Or do you want it included in, I don't care.
there
I
are
just
some
need to know.
parcels that are not gonna be relevant whatsoever. We have some railroad right-of-ways scattered around that just aren't gonna be in the equation.
Right.
I just want to make sure that it's attached to the in-study product. So if we attach it ourselves at the end, or the company does it, doesn't bother me one way.
County farm obviously needs to be included, the pond and so forth.
I would say
Beyond that,
just go ahead and have it sent out with the RFP, all the attachment of all the land, so that it can just be included in.
So do it include it in that.
You don't think that that's gonna confuse them?
See, it's a small acreage.
I mean, that's gonna be a hefty list. I mean, there's all kinds of weird little things that we are part of.
That's the whole point of why we're doing the space study, is still, because there is so many little things everywhere that needs to be all in one spot, so that way everybody knows what we have, because I can't tell you every piece that we have, and I don't know about the other 2, but I mean, it's very, there's just spots everywhere. So I figured that way we look at the study, that when we make the decision of what we're going forward with, we have all that information.
And is it, so I have clarification, is it okay if it's not, it's referenced in there that if they want to know what the land parcels are, they need to contact the auditor's office? Instead of including, you said it's going to be
That's fine, yeah, just when we,
Okay.
when they give us whatever they give, we'll make sure that that's attached onto it also at the end. But if they want it, they can get it from Susan.
Yep. That would be their
Go
response.
that route. Okay,
And then the scope of the stats that you had in 3, establish construction, project staffing, and operational costs for each option presented. Are they, what happens if we decide to go with a space study company that doesn't do construction or does engineering?
The 4 companies I contacted, which you know, do design work after they do the study. Most of them do not get into the engineering. So we would have to hire, either way around it, you're gonna have to hire an engineering company.
Okay.
Whatever option.
But when we put this out to bid, any company has the right to bid on it.
Right.
It might be just a consultant that doesn't do design at all. But in the scope of the study, you're requiring that they have the design. To include a schedule for design, establish a construction project, staffing, and operational costs.
I can remove it.
Okay, yeah, I just didn't want to, if they can't do that, I don't want them to be like, hey, we can't do the study because we just study the space, but we don't actually design anything.
Those 4 companies do the design.
And I understand those 4 do, but if another company wants to bid into it, we're sending this RFP out to any company that wants to do a bid against it, that I don't want to exclude companies
That don't do the,
that won't do the designing part of it.
but if they do a study without a design, if they don't have a design to propose, what good is the study?
The study is to, okay,
Yeah, you're gonna have to do the design.
the study to me is to see which departments work well with each other, how many people are in that department, how much physical space that department needs. They're not designing and fixing the problems, that's the next step. The study itself is to go, soil and water works closely with Chris's department. So the study would prove
be in
like
the same building or
these companies should probably be controlled. The Veterans Affairs Department doesn't tend to work with a lot of other government officials, but they work with the public, so that whatever they get put needs to have public access. Those are the questions that I would like to have, and then we can take that information and then come with a plan and the design and everything else. Yes.
Okay.
That's the initial, what I was looking for in the space study. But that's just me, I mean,
Yeah, I disagree. I think we should leave the design in there, so I guess it's up to you. If you want that design or removed or left in.
I mean, if they want to propose a design, they can. I just don't want to exclude companies that don't do that. They just want to do a part of it. Because if, say we accept them, they got the design, then we're kind of accepting that we have to accept their design.
well, we got another staffing and operational cost. That's another glitch.
We just need to know how to,
Yeah, and I understand what you're, but somebody might be able to design it, study how much we need, where it needs to be, what it's gonna cost, but they're gonna be qualified to, when we come to staffing and operation costs. The staffing's gonna have a lot to do with operation costs, obviously, but, yeah, I don't know, I don't. Put it out there and see what comes back. We might have to rebid it. Put it out there and see what comes back.
still need, he and I disagree, so do I?
Yeah, yeah, so
So do I leave the wording for the design, do I leave it in or do I remove it?
because the scope of the study is, it's stating
Yeah.
that, and just to clarify, Jim wants to have that they have a design for what the, solving some of the problems are gonna be, like what's the design would be to fix some of these issues. I wanna leave that out and deal with that on another date. Because if you leave that in, the company's gonna have to put that in their scope of the work, 'cause that's part of the RFP.
I
think-
think that's what they're wanting. Like, I think that's what council is thinking is going to happen, is all of that is gonna be in there. So, like, it's gonna be this study with some proposals and,
The design, though, is the next stage. I have to agree with you.
But they're gonna have to do a preliminary design for the space study,
Not really.
okay? You want it out?
Not really. The design would come later as a result of the space study. They have to have the space study before they can do the design, basically. So in other words, and then we'd have, we'd have to approve or disapprove of whatever space study comes back. Do the space study, then we look
And
into.
hire someone to design it and do the building part of it.
Yeah.
That was my thought process. So, but
After you do the design, you're gonna have an engineer.
fine too. Figure that out. There's gonna be
Rick
a,
is telling me staff and operation cost is important part of the study. Those are solutions and leave design in. For what it's worth.
and if they want to give, if they want to give a design, that's fine. I have no problem with it. I just don't want to exclude a company that can't give the design. Like that, I don't want that to be a requirement. Like they can do everything else, but hey, we don't design it. Design the,
So what is the wording right now?
we don't have one. It's all over the place right now.
Is it, I had it somewhere. Can you,
It says establish construction, project, staffing, and operational costs for each option presented. Operational costs and staffing costs should consider the differential cost from current cost. Number 4, include a schedule of design and construction by duration of each alternative presentation. So the wording to me is that we basically go in, whoever gets this is going to be able to design and start doing construction duration and all these operations and stuff like that, that a little more than I was wanting to do initially. My initial thought was to get an overall space study, figure out which departments work with what departments, who needs to be where, what the cost of each building is to have separately, and then take that and then form a committee, have a conversation, and figure out what to do.
We can't do design. We cannot do design because we don't know where anything's going to be until we have the space study.
I guess what are they going to be designing?
And if we can include design, we're going to get a big bids. We have to know where we're going to go with this first, because the design is going to escalate the cost out of sight. Say that right now. And they're not going to know what to design to. Number one, they don't know if we're going to do an addition down here, or if we're going to do it all in one big
building or
facility.
2 different facilities
They
or
have
what,
to
yeah.
know that, and we won't know that till we get the space study.
but would they be able to propose, not a specific design of a thing, but would they be able to propose some solutions of?
Yeah.
That's fine. Solution, if they say, hey, this is what we recommend, that
That's
you
what
go
the
to
space study
one,
is about.
you'd go to one annex building or 2 annex buildings. But
Yeah.
when I see designs, I figure that they're designing
Yeah, that's,
annex buildings and whatnot. I
So
guess that's
do
where
you want the design maybe to say
overall
proposed
proposals.
solutions?
Yeah, recommending solution.
Recommendations?
There we go. That's
Instead of the word design?
designs, yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't want someone being confused at design, like, well, I don't design buildings, I don't design whatever. It's more, I want this, you want to propose
If they
solutions.
recommend solutions, then they won't have to necessarily implement
Yeah.
engineering cost and all of that.
and then we decide on the
And then we
design.
go from, then that's when we can decide what route we want to go with.
Yeah.
Want to do an annex building or just fix up what we currently have? And then we can go out for design on that, so.
Right, right.
I will remove number 4.
Then are you going to add in the language recommending solutions, or is that already in there?
It says evaluate the current buildings and the future needs of county government. This should include all the elements, mechanical, electrical, size, configuration, staffing, and operational cost. That's the very first one,
Covers it. Okay,
which would cover, you said staffing, so it should be in there.
that's fine.
Okay, number 4 is removed.
Yeah, before we removed.
Anything else on that?
That was it. On mine, so.
Need a motion?
What do we
There's
move
a lot of changes there. Can we,
Motioning for the RFP
to be sent out
with
with the changes
certain
discussed?
changes.
yes.
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so who made that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
A motion and second on the floor. Additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. April County Home Report. Get a chance to look at that, gentlemen? I did too. Basically, that was report of income, right? I didn't see any expenses.
It was just, well, so this shows all of the income. This is technically, it looks like an expense from their bank account because we're writing a check for rent that we've received. And then this just shows what people pay for rent. But yeah, otherwise, it's not expenses as their budget. It's strictly with their, what comes in out of the home and their trust.
Just need a motion acknowledging receipt. County Home Report.
So move.
I'll second.
A motion second on the floor. Comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, oppose. Motion is approved. Anything else, anybody?
Yeah, real quick. I think I did mention it, that May River Basin Commission, DeKalb County needs to approve a mitigation plan. Apparently, there's $5,000 needs to be approved. So being brand new on that board, but it was clear that the DeKalb County Commissioners need to do some kind of mitigation, approval of a mitigation plan. So maybe you can check with Mr. Reckenberger to find out exactly what we need to do.
Is that not what Jason's doing?
I don't.
He said the commissioners need to approve it. So I don't.
I'll have to look and see what we've done before.
I thought we did.
Well,
I'll look.
apparently it's every 3 years or every 5 years it needs to be done. I think it was 5 years.
Yeah, and I think Jason's working on a new one.
Okay.
I'll look.
A flood mitigation plan for the county.
And I think because it involves grant dollars and things, I'm pretty sure Jason is involved with that.
You want me to just forward your email to Jason or
We have an email?
for what? Jason Meek?
Jim sent us an email?
Yes, Jim sent an email at 8 o'clock.
I think I sent it just to you though, I think. Thought it was.
You sent it to Jim Miller and Susan and then copied me on it, but you addressed it to me.
It was attached onto the space study one. Email thread is attached on the space study.
Why don't I
thread,
just
that's
email
why
Jason and say, do you know anything about this plan?
Well, just hold on. Wait.
Just hold it.
I'll be in communication with you.
Anyway,
Okay, it sounds like we'll figure it out.
brand new and
Yeah.
just trying to figure it all out, but that was emphatic. So, thank you.
Yep, sounds like it's an important thing to be on top of, so.
That's all I have.
Anything else?
Update of Sunny Meadows. We have the cameras are installed and recording. Brenda has been hired. She's been out there more than a handful of times, meeting with the residents. She's in constant contact with Susan, working her butt off. She's a really good hire out there. We did hire a matron position to fill in. We did lose the head cook. I have hired, with the manpower, we have 2 temps that are working third shift to help with the laundry and cleaning. We have fixed the sinks out there as of right now. There's some issues with the faucets itself, but it's being fixed. And then we did have 1 resident leave, so we're down to 17, with 1 other one leaving beginning of July because of some paperwork that got to get filled out. And then that is it right now. I just wanted to kind of do an update. That's all I have.
I have. Andrew, anything?
No.
Susan? All done? I got one little thing I want to just mention. Plan Commission appoint appointment. Seem to have something that needs to be discussed. I assume that would have to be executive session.
So what is that? Sorry.
Plan commission member that's
Appointment.
in question, would that
Oh.
need to be
Had a couple
executive
complaints.
session?
I guess it could be an executive session, but the final vote would have to be done in public, but you could, yeah, do it. Yes, that makes sense. I think so, as an employee or someone under your supervision, it would have to fit that category of the executive session.
Let's not set that today, let's wait for 2 weeks, let's get after Labor Day, or Memorial Day, and then set a date for that executive session. Get through this insurance and everything else, and then, that sound good? Okay. Nothing else, then, we are adjourned.